Welcome to the 54th episode of the Friday Nightmare podcast. On this episode, we will be talking about Irish horror. I am one half of your hosting team, Heather Powell, coming to you today from Waterdown, Ontario, Canada. And with me, as always, is
Mr. Smoke Show Crawford, coming to you from the town of Swartz Creek in the county of Genesee, in the state of Michigan, in the United States of America, in the North American continent, in the Western Hemisphere, on the planet Earth, in the Milky Way galaxy. I'm fully vaxxed, boosted, and waxed, ready to climax. And if you can, please get me wet, feed me after midnight. And I am also known as the man with the glorious beard.
And he's going to go looking for some gold.
Well, it's kind of funny that we're this just kind of was accidental. I don't think it was kind of planned, but by the time this episode releases, it'll be about a couple days after St. Patrick's Day.
It will be a day after St. Patrick's Day. And we totally planned it. I don't know what Scott's talking about. We are planning masters at Friday Nightmares. So
absolutely, as everyone knows. So if this is your first time listening to us, welcome. We are continuing to do our horror around the world, and we go back and forth between language and countries. We'll just see what works for us. And today we are going to be talking about horror movies. Primarily, I think all four that we'll be talking about our main topic are from Ireland. So we will be getting to that later. In terms of life and excitement, biggest thing is I booked my trip to Ireland officially. So for those of you who don't know, I am flying to Ireland on Friday, April 29th. I will be staying in Dublin from Saturday, April 30th, because it's an overnight flight on Friday to Saturday, to Thursday, I can't remember what that is. Friday, May 6th. Yeah, I'm flying out on Friday, May 6th to Newcastle, England. I'll be in North England for 3 nights, and then I'll be taking the train down on that Monday to go to London, England, and I will be meeting up with Kate and Matt from the Internal podcast. The Eternal Darkness of the Not So Spotless Mind podcast.
The Eternal Darkness of the Not So Spotless Mind podcast in London, England. I can imagine the shenanigans we're going to get up to. It will be fucking epic. And I will be staying there for 3 nights and then flying home on Thursday, May 12th. I will be doing this trip solo, and I'm looking forward to meeting a couple of different people. I have a friend, Tom, that I'll be meeting up with in Dublin, Joseph, who is also a movie reviewer that I've done quiz with, that I will be meeting up in Belfast, Mark, who I promoted his book a couple of episodes ago, or maybe it was the last episode. I'll meet up with him in Newcastle, and of course Kate and Matt in London, and I am beyond excited. So it's really fitting that we're doing Irish horror because I will be in Ireland. And I've already booked a whole bunch of tours. I'm doing a sheepdog farm tour because it's me and my other passion animals. But I'm also doing a haunted Ireland tour on the Saturday night when I get there. I booked it for 8:00, so I thought that would be a great way to meet people. Saturday night, idea. Go out for some pints afterwards, make some poor decisions. Just the hashtag living my best life. So yeah, there will be a little bit of a break. We'll announce it as it gets closer, but I will be away this time. Usually it's Scotty who's off gallivanting.
Yeah, because you'll be gone, 12 days?
I'll be gone 13 days.
13 days.
And
so there'll be probably about a good 3-week break.
Yeah, because then I got to come back and watch the movies that we're going to be doing our topic on. So there definitely will be a gap in time between us recording and stuff. But we'll talk about that as we get to the end of April. We'll probably do our last episode the weekend before I leave, because Scotty will be coming up for my birthday on April 16th. So that will be an epic time too. So lots of fun times ahead. Lots of cool stuff happening. St. Patrick's Day is happening this Thursday. Scotty, are you doing anything for St. Patty's Day?
I never really do. So like maybe I'll have a beer at home or something. Who knows? But I usually don't have any plans on St. Patty's Day just because I don't like going to the bar on St. Patrick's Day because that's when shit gets a bit ridiculous. Especially in my area.
Truth. Can you imagine if we went to the bar, how ridiculous the shit would get?
True. Oh, though. There is an Irish pub now right here in downtown Swartz Creek that we used to be like this old hole-in-the-wall bar, got renovated, and my cousin works there as one of the server/bartenders.
Oh, nice.
So maybe I'll go up there and have a drink.
Yeah, why not? One drink is fine. It'll be fine. Just go early. If you go at 8 o'clock or 7 o'clock, there won't be too many shenanigans at that point.
Right, exactly. And like I say, it's still kind of just like it's a little more classier of an area, so I don't think it's going to be ridiculous.
No, I plan on going out and being ridiculous. So it's funny that Scott's concerned because I'm that very person that he is referring to, because I am going out on St. Patrick's Day. I bought a green skirt purposely for this event, and I got reservations 3 weeks ago at this pub so I could go out with my friends. And I'm going to do a pub crawl, my own pub crawl with friends on next Saturday. If Scotty was up here, he would be... Yeah, it's okay, Scotty. Don't worry. My birthday will be the exact same thing, probably.
Oh, I know it will.
You know, every time you come up here, you know you're prepared for it. So it's sorry. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, and then like I'll be coming to see you in April, and then you'll be coming out here June.
That's right. We should talk about that. So Scott and I are also big wrestling fans. I like AEW like a real person. Scott likes to watch old WWE.
I love AEW. You can kiss my ass.
Well, you are the one that bought the ticket, so I should be careful with what I say.
Exactly.
So Scott, why don't you tell us about what you and I are going to on Wednesday, June 29th, and somebody else. I don't know if you want to say who.
Yeah, I'll say it. But yeah, it'll be me, you, and Mandy. But yeah, we're going to be June 29th. AEW is finally coming to Detroit for the first time ever. So I was like, all right, yeah, I'll wait a couple days because tickets went on sale on Friday and it's now Sunday. But I was like, yeah, I'll wait like a couple of days, kind of see like how it all goes out and how like prices are going to be. I'm definitely going because I can't miss seeing AEW live.
Oh no.
And then tickets were being bought up fast as shit. Like I expected, like the good seats to be bought up quickly, and then like the more nosebleed stuff to kind of take its time. But no, everything was being bought up quick as hell, probably because it's its first time being here. Mm-hmm. And so I had to jump on it right on Friday. So yeah, I got us all decent seats. I was trying to get something like a little closer, but at the same time, like, this is more the just live event experience more than anything.
It is. And even I've been to a lot of wrestling events, and I've sat ringside and I've sat in the rafters. And I can tell you that ringside, you still don't see that much because you can only really see what's in your vantage point.
Right.
It's, it's the experience of being there with the crowd and cheering and getting revved up about it. Like that's what will make it enjoyable. And I plan on being really drunk because Scott's driving. So because when Scott comes up here, I drive his ass around, just so we're clear. Until we're going out to party, then we take cabs.
Yes. Well, I'll say then when you came to visit here every time, I drove us around too.
You did, but we just got drunk at your house. We didn't really go out. When you come here, there's no limit to where we'll get drunk.
Right. Oh, I know.
He's like, I know, Heather, I have to like not drink for the entire bunch of March. And then can you imagine? So Tuesday night, I'll be coming down. I took that week off work. So I'll be driving down Tuesday. So I imagine we'll be drinking Tuesday night too.
Oh, yeah.
And then we'll come back from AEW and drink more. To Thursday. Oh man.
Yeah, I got Wednesday and Thursday off because I wanted to be able to because it looks like the doors open at 6:00 on the Wednesday the show is. So we'll probably get out to Detroit around like 3:00 in the afternoon, kind of like get ourselves a good parking spot and then just kind of walk to a restaurant or something and just kill a couple hours and then maybe
a bar.
Well, I'm looking for a restaurant so we have some good food that also serves booze.
Absolutely, it's a must, Scott. That's how this rolls.
Well, I mean, I'm going to put up with your ass, so of course.
Oh yeah.
No, actually, I'm going to put up with you and Mandy making fun of my ass. Man. So I am definitely going to have to get some drinks.
It's going to be marvelous, actually. I I feel that you, like, I got to be nice to you because, like, you know, you don't want to tag team someone too hard, right? You know what I'm saying, Scott? You know what I'm saying?
No,
You know what I'm saying? You know where I'm from? You know, because then, like, he may not invite me back again. And then he may not come up to my house, and I'll be like, you want to come up for your birthday? And I'll be like, I'd rather stay here and fucking avoid you, Heather. What was I going to say about something? So Tuesday night, you know, we should go see a horror movie if there's anything playing.
Yeah, I'd be down.
Like, we haven't gone to a movie together in years, literally
Right.
years.
Last one was Gretel and Hansel.
Yeah, but let's go see something like
good,
not art house. Like, let's go see something like fucking ridiculous. Like, let's find like the dumbest horror movie that's, like, if Studio 666 is playing, we would go see that.
Fuck yes, I would be down for that.
Oh man. And like, remember when like Matt and Kate, did you ever watch them when they went live and they went to the film festival and they were talking about the Giallos and stuff? You and I'd be like, oh yeah, some fucking Foo Fighters.
Got to see some Dave Grohl fucking killing people and shit.
They have like very deep reviews, and we have very like and then there was like a lot of murder, and there was a lot of blood, and then there was
what we would talk about is
Debbie.
what we talk about is goddamn people behind us being jackasses while we're watching the movie.
No, what we talk about, hey Scott, remember we smoked that fatty before we went into the movie? We would be the jackasses, but we would think that it was somebody else because we were so high, but it was actually us the entire time. Because we'd be the only ones in the theater. It'd be great.
Right, exactly.
Oh man, we got a whole time set. So anyone want to join us in Michigan, we'll let you know what movies we're going to go see. I don't know. And then you can come up and hang out with Scott and I at the movie theater. Same as up here in Ontario. I don't know if anyone's ever around in the Toronto, Niagara area, hit us up.
Right? That'd be awesome. And yeah, I was gonna say, also it sounds like for the AEW show, friend of the show, and like personal friend of mine, Justin Bramlett from the Talking Films group, the head of that Facebook page.
Oh, I like Justin.
Yeah, he's awesome, and him and his girlfriend will be at the show. They got ringside.
Oh, nice.
And then also our buddy Randall will be there.
Oh, very nice. I wish like another podcast was going so we could, like, I could imagine for Horror Dummies were there, and then we staged a fight between you, me, and Tim and Daniel. Like you and I came behind Tim and Daniel with a chair and like knocked them out, and like we dumped drinks on them.
Yeah, but when you distract them with the chair, I'll come around with a freaking ladder and swing it.
And you're like, "Who's the Scott Crawford now, Tim?" And I'm all like, "Who's the bitch now, Daniel?"
I'll be like Orange Cassidy in the pay-per-view, put the ladder between my head and just slowly spin around and just start.
Yeah, but we got to be heels. Like if we're attacking Tim and Daniel, they're the faces and we're the heels. So absolutely. We got to wear our leather jackets. We both have leather jackets, so we're gonna wear that. And we're gonna like have the crowd boo, and then we'll yell back at the crowd, and we'll be like, "You Aussies, go back home to your kangaroos.
Go drink your Fosters."
It'd be great. Oh man, it'd be the best.
And then Tim and I will have to do like I just shared a video to their Wrestling for Dummies page. But we'll have to reenact this video of like it looked like Japanese wrestlers, and one guy goes to grab this dude's dick, and the guy that's got his dick grabbed is like flexing like this, and the guy's arms getting twisted because his dick's like moving around.
That would be what we would call the Scott Crawford finish.
Yes, Scott Crawford, the raging Scott Crawford.
Right? Daniel and I, how we finish each other is we just finish each other. That's a different thing. But now we're gonna finish each other in wrestling. It's
a different kind of wrestling.
At AEW, how Daniel and I are gonna finish is we're gonna get into a political debate with each other because he's like, so we have a chat group. So yet again, we're friends with these dudes, and we have a chat group, and we send funny shit to each other all the time. And like Daniel's way more political than Tim. Like me, I'm super political. So like Daniel and I will just like, or we'll try to like out laugh each other with our jokes. Like we'll see.
And Tim and I will just be in the background going, oh, Jesus Christ.
Right. Well, no, he's still going to be playing with the Scott Crawford. That's
true. Yeah, that's true.
Doing right. But yeah, if I was a wrestler, I would totally want to be a heel because I'm such a nice person in real life. It would be like if I was in a horror movie, I would want to be the villain. Like I would want to be the bad person.
Yeah, same.
Because like I spent my whole life being nice. I've always wanted to be a heel in wrestling. That was like when I was little, that was my fantasy, was to go into wrestling and be a heel. Because I thought it would just be like, and heel, by the way, for people that don't know this cool lingo that we're talking about, means that you're the bad guy.
Yeah, but I want to start off as the face, then turn heel.
Okay, maybe we start on, that's like our podcast. We started off as faces, and then like last time we're all like, You don't watch independent horror? You're a piece of shit.
Chair.
We had started off with, hey, it's okay for everyone to have their own opinion, and now we're like, your opinion's wrong. All you do is watch franchises.
We're better than you, and you know it.
You know it. I do want to shout out Liz. I haven't had a chance to respond to her on Facebook. I will by the time she hears this. I thought it was really nice that she said that, you know, we've encouraged her to watch more films. Liz, you have encouraged me to watch Universal monster films, because I've watched none of them. Right. So I feel like I really should watch a couple and try to, like, you know, get familiarized with it.
Exactly. Expand our horizons a bit.
Well, you know, we are super famous podcasters. So
totally. We are celebrities.
we have an audience to think that, Scott.
Dozens of listeners.
Dozens that rely on our opinions, our heel opinions, because we're no longer faces. Though you're more of a face than I am. I would totally stay face or stay heel, and you would turn like face.
I probably would, yeah.
Yeah, you would. You absolutely would. I'd be like,
I can't handle this bad guy life anymore.
No, I'd be like, I'm gonna break Tim and Daniel's legs so they can't wrestle.
And I'm gonna please Tim.
With his good leg. That's remaining. Right?
With his kickstand.
With his kickstand. Oh man. I love them. We gotta do another episode with them sometime soon.
Oh fuck yes we do. It's just such a bitch scheduling with them, but it's so fun when we get to do it.
I miss them. I miss their fluffy bum bums. Anyway.
I miss us.
I miss us. So we're really ready to heal it up for our 2022 watches. I don't think we've watched anything that is overly popular. I think a lot of people may or may not seen the stuff we've watched. So I guess we can dive right into it. I think this first gem here is, I don't think you watched, did you, Scotty?
Yeah, you are pretty much carrying the list part of the show today, because I didn't get a chance. Work has been kicking my fucking ass, so I have not had a chance to watch a lot.
Basically what's happened is we're in a tag match, and Scotty was in the ring first, and he got beat up real bad, and somebody snuck in a chair and hit him when the ref wasn't looking. So now I have to carry the rest of the wrestling match.
True.
And like, I'm getting double teamed by
Yeah, you are. Yeah, you are.
Anytime.
Be like, oh, you gun.
Hey, I could think of way worse things to have happened to me. That actually sounds like a fantasy. So, you know, they're both good looking men. You know, I wouldn't kick them out of bed for eating crackers. Maybe though, like, maybe I would kick them out of bed for, like, I don't know, what would I kick them out of bed for? Maybe not sharing their crackers. Like, well, if they were like, these are my fucking
out for not liking the same movies as us.
You know what? That's fine. You know, I respect his opinion. And I don't. Think, wow.
I love you, Tim.
Wow. And you heard it here first on Friday night. No wonder they're beating me up in the ring by myself right now. You're fucking on the outside. Oh, man. All right, let's get to this first gem. Do not kill me. All right. You could have killed me watching this movie. So this movie is 90 minutes in length. It is available on the Netflix. It is a German film. The synopsis for this movie is: after Mirta dies of a drug overdose with her lover. She is resurrected alone and discovers she's part of a violent world she never knew existed. This has a generous 1.6 rating on Letterboxd.
Wow.
It's not the worst film I've ever seen. Now I watched a lot of movies. Basically it's about a young lady who's in love with a bad boy, and they get in, they OD on drugs together, and she comes back and he doesn't. And she comes back as like a zombie vampire. I don't really know. That's not a spoiler because you don't really know what the fuck she is. It reminds me of like Pet Sematary, but not as good. So yeah, I think if you're just looking to watch maybe something for teenagers, this may not be too bad, but it's not the best film. There's nothing super memorable about it. Unless you're a real big vampire zombie fan and you're a completist and you want to watch all of them, I would say check it out. But otherwise, I think this one's a skip. Even being on the flicks, it's not really worth it.
Yeah, so I remember you were saying, like, telling me, going, yeah, don't bother.
Yeah, your time is precious, Scott. So, like, honestly, you're busy. You're a busy man. We got these tag belts to defend, and
it's true.
you know,
because I sure as hell am not defending the belt on the or the Wrestling for Dummies podcast.
Yeah, you're not. I'm gonna come in there and I'm gonna beat all of you, especially Rob Humphrey. Rob, I'm coming for you.
Coming for you in your Hungy belt.
That's right. It's gonna be Heather Hungy. That's what it's gonna turn into. But yeah. So anyway, the film is on Netflix, but I don't really recommend it. So let's move on to the next better film. I think that we both watched, and I'll let you talk about it, Scotty.
All right. So this one is a Hulu exclusive for me. Where did you watch it?
I watched it on a good friend's Plex.
Okay, I wasn't sure if it was like available on another streaming service there or not.
No. Oh, it's available on Disney Plus.
Oh, okay, that's right. Because everything Hulu for the US is just Disney Plus for other countries. I forgot about that because the next movie that you'll be talking about is actually on Disney Plus, which I kind of find funny.
Wow, I can't believe either one of these movies are on Disney Plus.
Yeah, I'm kind of shocked, but I think it's just kind of a catch-all right now.
Must be.
But yeah, the movie we are talking about is the Hulu exclusive for me, Disney Plus exclusive for Heather, and that is No Exit. It's basically about a woman that is in a rehabilitation facility for drug use, and her mother is going in the hospital for like a serious surgery. So she basically runs away from the rehab center and starts driving to meet up with her family. And on the way there, a major snowstorm happens where she's forced off the road and has to stay at this bar until the storm passes over.
It's a tourist stop. Like it's one of those rest stops.
Oh, okay. I thought it was
not
more
a bar. Oh
okay.
No, they've been drinking more.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
Yeah.
That's but yeah, like she has to stop there and like kind of wait out the storm with a bunch of other people. And they're just kind of getting to know each other since they're all kind of just isolated together. And then she happens to go outside and sees that there is a little girl tied up in one of the people's vehicles. And then the rest of the movie is about trying to figure out who is the one that kidnapped this girl and what's going on and how to deal with it. And I found this to be like a really well done movie. Like it's got an interesting story and it just gets very tense and has a couple little twist surprises that I didn't see coming.
Yeah, I'll be honest. There was one twist that I was like, oh dear. Oh dear.
Oh shit.
There's a pickle now. I thought it was great. I thought the acting was decent for the characters that were in it. The Allstate guy's in it. And in case everyone wants to see the Allstate guy, he's in this one. And I thought he did a pretty
that was him.
Yeah, I thought he did a pretty good job, to be honest with you. Like the guy played his role really, really well. I thought all the characters were interesting. I thought the almost gave a spoiler there. I thought the third act was very, very good. I thought the whole movie was enjoyable. I was glued to the scene. That third act, I was like, what's going to happen?
Right.
What's going to happen? And I didn't really know how it was going to go down. I'll be honest. I was like, they could take this movie a couple of different ways. And I don't know which way this is going to happen. So that to me is a good movie. I think this is a must watch this year, to be honest with you. I think this is one of the better films that have come out so far.
Yeah, I completely agree. Yeah. Like this is, I think, my number 2 or 3 of the year so far. Like it's just really well done and
solid.
Yeah, had some very tense moments in it. And yeah, like you said, you didn't know what direction it was going to go in the third act, like who was going to survive and what was going to happen. It just, it was crazy. Like then. And yeah, Hulu does, like, when they release some exclusives, they don't do it very often, but when they do exclusive horror/thriller films like this, they're usually pretty fucking solid.
Yeah, like I was really, really impressed with this film. I understand that it may not be everybody's favorite, but I think it's definitely a must watch. Like, yeah. I would never say to someone, oh, you probably won't like this. You may not love it, but it's entertaining and it doesn't overstay its runtime at 96 minutes. Like it's well budgeted, doesn't overextend its runtime, easy to follow, some good little twists and turns, well enough acted. I enjoyed it a lot.
Yeah, same here. Like this is one to at least not miss for the year. Like right? It may not be in your list, but it is at least something you should watch to see because you never know. And yeah, for me right now, it's pretty high up there. And I have a feeling the next one will be high up there for me when I get a chance to watch it.
Oh, so you haven't seen this one yet?
No, you told me to watch it and I just did not have the time yet.
All right. This is also a Hulu movie. It is called Fresh. This one is a little bit longer. It's 114 minutes. I want to give a shout out to Sebastian Stan. He's in a lot of fucking Canadian shit. I think he's actually Canadian. I'm actually going to check right now. Roman American actor. Oh, so he just does a lot of Canadian films. So you'll recognize him because he's in a lot of movies. This film is very kind of calls out the issues with dating and some issues with misogyny. misogyny, sorry, which I think was really well done in this film. It's basically, I'll give a very, light synopsis. A young lady is frustrated with dating, meets a young man who, of course, she falls for, and he is not what he seems, as most horror movies would have you expect.
Well, as most dating experiences are too.
Wah, wah, wah. But I think where this movie is like, well, we've seen this plot before. We have. But this plot is done very, very well. There's something a little bit different about this. Like, for example, Tim Davis gave it 4 stars. So that means that it's, probably good. Just kidding, Tim.
It's a 1 star for me then. No.
No, Scott, you will not be giving this a 1 star.
No, I know I won't.
It is a good film. It's well acted. The main lead in it, Daisy Edgar-Jones, could win Protagonist of the Year for me. She's a contender. Absolutely.
Oh,
yep, she is definitely a contender. There were 2 women this week, or the last 2 weeks, who I watched that could win Protagonist of the Year award. And Fresh, for me, I could see being in my top 10.
Nice.
I enjoyed it that much. And it also, like, it had the relationship things. It had a little bit about social culture. It hit all the what is it that we call the Heather? What did I used to call it? The Heather vibes or whatever it was. The Heather language.
Yeah, Heather language.
It was speaking the Heather language. So I totally recommend checking this out. It is a little bit longer at 114-minute runtime, but I think it's worth your while. It is available on Hulu and Disney Plus.
Yeah, and I just looked up Sebastian Stan because I'm like, I recognize that name. And okay, yeah, he's the Winter Soldier from the Marvel movie, all the Marvel movies. Okay, so this is one I'll definitely have to watch with Mandy because that's
great.
One of her she really likes him.
He's a good actor. Like, he really is. And I've seen him in other shit too. Like, he's a really solid actor. So yeah, he can play a lot of different roles, which I find really impressive because sometimes, like, some movies you get kind of typecast, and this guy is great. Really, really great dialogue, really well delivered, great chemistry between him and the lead. Honestly, I can't praise this movie enough. No Exit and Fresh, Hulu. Thank you. Thank you for bringing some good films out. These have been quite enjoyable. So
yeah, for once, like, we may actually have some really tough choices to make at the end of the year for our exclusive Hulu stuff.
Oh, I think we will actually. Between these 2 films, I don't know which one I would choose. I would probably at this point lean towards Fresh. Nice. But that's a no shitting on No Exit. Like, No Exit was just amazing. It's just a personal preference. And have you seen the second one or the third one here?
This one was on our friend's Plex last year, and the title just kind of sounded weird. So I was like, I'm not going to bother with it. And then I seen it popped up on Shudder.
It's fucking weird. So it's The Scary of 61st. And it's an 81-minute runtime. It's currently on Shudder. It's also available on Amazon, iTunes, Google Play, and YouTube. So 2 roommates' lives are upended after finding out that their new Manhattan apartment harbors a dark secret. They basically find out that they've been living in the same apartment where Jeff Epstein, sorry. I'm just mixing in 2 pieces of shit there with those names.
Right.
I was like, oh, they're both pieces of shit. So anyway, is it Epstein? Am I not saying? Thank you, Epstein. That, I guess he used to live there and obviously did some horrible things there. And there's some ghosts that possess some of the young woman that's there. And then there's this like conspiracy with Prince Andrew and how he was involved in basically raping young girls.
Wow. So this is covering the whole like sex ring thing.
It is.
Wow.
It is covering but it's not doing it, in my opinion, a good way. I think the movie's cheesy. I think it's poor dialogue. I think they're trying to be shocking, and I think they're trying to be transparent with what occurred, but I think they're missing the mark completely. I did not personally enjoy it. I thought it was a chore to get through. I only kept watching it because it was only 81 minutes, and I thought I can get through this if I try really, really, really hard. And I did, but I was not a big fan. I'm seeing the rankings on here anywhere from 1 star to 3.5. It has a 2.6 rating on Letterboxd, so it's rated fairly high. So if you're someone that enjoyed this, no criticism to you. It just wasn't my thing. I wouldn't even recommend it. So I would say if you're, I don't know, you want to see some these writers' take on this sex ring scandal, sure, you can watch this movie. But none of the horror's done overly well. Nothing's done really overly well. So I can't recommend it in good conscience personally.
Good to know. I'll not bother then.
Yeah, I definitely wouldn't bother, Scott, for you. But you know what? If someone else wants to watch and they enjoyed it, no criticism here. Like, you like what you like, and maybe I just don't know enough about the situation. It just wasn't for me. So yeah.
Right. And you know my taste, so.
Yeah, I know you're not going to enjoy it. Don't waste your time, Scott.
All right.
Yeah.
The title itself kind of threw me off anyway, so I was like, yeah, not gonna bother.
Yeah.
But yeah, I can do the next one since, like I said, you're carrying the show this week. The next one is called The Desperate Hour, starring Naomi Watts, and it is about a mother who is going on a run, and while she is out running, her kids are going to school, and a school shooting happens, and she gets like alerts and everything while she's out like miles and miles and miles away from home and from school. And so she's freaking out and trying to figure out a way to find out if her kids are okay and to get to them. And man, this is pretty much a one woman show. Like, it's Naomi Watts about, I'd say, 90% of the film, doing like all the like performance, and holy fuck is this, like, this movie just pulls at your heartstrings and just like has you hoping that everything is okay. Like, it is intense and very real. And like, shit, she does such an incredible job. Like, she's always been an amazing actress, and this just proves it.
You know, I think, you know, there's a chant in wrestling that's like, you still got it, clap, 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 you still got it. Like, that was Naomi Watts in this fucking film. You know, it's not the best story. Like, it really isn't. She makes it good. Yeah, she is the one that carries this film and makes it good. And as you said, Scott, it's her for 90% of it talking on an iPhone.
Yeah.
Like, that's what it is. Well, she's running, trying to get back. And I will be honest, there was a twist in this that I did not see coming. I thought I called the situation right from the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was wrong of who I thought was at fault for what was happening.
Yep, same.
So I give the movie a lot of credit for that, because I really did think they set it up for one thing and it ended up being another.
The thing about that is, like, either way, if it played out the way we thought, or it played out the way it actually did, either way would have been fucking heartbreaking and intense.
Oh yeah, and her reaction, like, I recommended this. So Scott knows my friend Amber, and I saw Amber Friday night, and I said, you need to watch this movie. And I said to her, this would be you as a mom of what you would do.
Yeah.
Like, it is just, and then Scott knows Amber, so he knows exactly what I'm saying, right? Yep. So it is honestly, if anything, to watch this movie. It's not super horror. I would argue, most people are going to argue that it's thriller. That's fine. On this show, Scott and I don't fucking debate that shit because we don't care. But I think if you call it thriller or whatever, watch this for Naomi Watts' performance. I think her performance alone makes this movie enjoyable. Do I think it's the best movie that people are going to like love? Probably not. Scott and I really like the school shooting movie that like Run, Hide, Fight that came out last year. To me, this is a great like companion movie, kind of showing like that showed the inside of a school shooting, and it was very real. I know someone said it was a lifetimey movie. I don't think it was a fucking lifetimey movie at all. I think it showed like the fucking reality of what happens to people when they get shot and how scary it is.
And this is now that I think about it, the third year a movie tackling like school shootings, because Spontaneous was basically about school shootings.
That's what it was about.
Run, Hide, Fight, and then this.
Yeah, right. Which is like, why are we still making movies about this, everybody? Why?
Probably because it's a reality we will never freaking get over, because America sucks.
You know, maybe we need to reconsider why that keeps happening. But anyway, so yeah, I think a lot of people are going to put this in the thriller category, but it's definitely worth a rental. You can rent it on Google, Vudu, Microsoft Store, DirecTV. It's worth whatever you pay for it. If you enjoy Naomi Watts, you enjoy thrillers, this movie is entertaining. 84-minute runtime. It doesn't overstay its welcome. Yeah, there's some parts that are cheesy, and there's some parts where you're like, why the fuck would you do that? But like, put yourself in her shoes. Try to think of yourself as a panicked mother. She's just recently widowed. There's a lot of trauma here. I get it. You know, I get it. Even though I was like, oh, come on, Naomi. But I was like, oh, fuck, she nails it. Like, she nails it. She fucking pulls you in, and she fucking nails it. Like, honestly, watch this movie for her performance. Nothing else. Watch this movie for her performance.
Her performance is what is putting this movie in my top 3 right now.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And this is my other nominee for Protagonist of the Year award. Mm-hmm. Like, holy fuck, is she like pulls from my inside soul and basically put it out there. And I can't stop thinking about her and the main character from Fresh. Both both women, both incredible. So Scott and I give it a strong nudge of approval, so please check it out.
Absolutely.
If you get a chance to. The most recent one on Shudder that just dropped is called The Seed. It is a 91-minute runtime. What starts out as a girls' weekend away in the Mojave Desert becomes a true tale of horror, death, and alien invasion.
Okay, I've seen this one. I seen the featured section of Shudder, and I was curious about this one.
Yeah, it's interesting. And you'll like it, Scotty. There's some really good body horror that you're gonna like in this one. Yeah. The characters in this are very for everyone who's going to watch this movie, the characters are supposed to be vapid and dumb. Okay. I'm so tired of people watching movies like, the characters seemed really like spacey and they were dumb and I didn't like it. Well, this movie, they're supposed to be, okay? Like that's the setup. They're social media fucking chicks who their lives revolve around social media. Like that's who they are. Stop criticizing it. That's just part of the film.
Right.
But yeah, there's some really cool special effects. Basically, they go out to this house that one of their parents own in the middle of the desert for like a getaway and to do some really cool videos and stuff. And they find something that they shouldn't. And chaos proceeds from there. It is some really good line delivery, really fun movie, really good gore, excellent body horror. I don't want to say too much because it's brand spanking new on Shetty, though by the time you guys get to this, it's been out for about a week. So hopefully more people have watched it. I definitely think Scott will watch this and I think Scott will enjoy it quite a bit. It will probably be pretty high on his list. So, if you're into body horror, if you're into kind of the fun little alien invasion shit and like watching people who are pretty, what's the word? Superficial, get their comeuppance, then you may enjoy this film. It is available on Shudder, Canada and the United States, AMC Plus, and AMC Plus Roku Premium channel. So if you subscribe to Shudder, what are you waiting for, Scott?
What are you waiting for? What are you waiting for? I love doing that.
It never gets old. And I always laugh every time you do it because you guys can't see it, but Scott leans back in his chair, opens up his arms, and swirls around, and it's like the best.
Totally pull a Jennifer Love Hewitt.
Oh my God. It's honestly the fucking best. It never gets old. So yes, I do recommend checking this out if you have Shudder. Even if you're not a huge body horror fan, it's 91 minutes. It's a fun movie. I don't think you're going to regret your time with it. May not make your top 10, but I think it's a worthwhile watch. Not all the movies we watch make it to our top 10. Hence why they're called a top 10.
Yeah.
So, just keep getting out there and watching cool shit.
Exactly. Unfortunately, this is not one of those cool shit movies, and it's also on Shudder. So Shudder is hit or miss.
Mm-hmm.
They do put out, but I gotta give them credit because they always put out unique films.
Yes, they do.
Like, but this one is called Hellbender. I already forgot most of what happens in this movie, but I will give you a synopsis of what I remember off the top of my head. And it is about a mother and daughter that live deep in the woods, isolated from everybody else. And the mother does not want, is pretty much keeping the daughter away from society because she has quote unquote a disease that, is too infectious to be around anyone else. And then, well, of course, being a rebellious teenage daughter, she's out wandering the woods. She's a weird loner kid because, of course, being raised by your mother and no one else around, you're going to be kind of strange.
You don't have social skills.
Exactly. And she ends up running into a girl who is out at a swimming pool at another house miles away from the house and kind of befriends her. And then, well, you see why she's been isolated.
Yeah.
But then this film is all just weird, artsy. The acting is odd.
Yeah.
Not sure what really happens in this movie. There's really not much of a payoff. There's kind of a tiny sort of build-up and then just kind of fizzles. This movie was just kind of bland. Besides what I just said for the synopsis, which is pretty much the first quarter of the film, the stuff happens. I don't remember anything else. It was slow and torturous for me to get through at work. And I'm doing other stuff while I'm working and I'm going, I want to turn this off because this is pointless, but I've already made it this far. I might as well continue watching it because I just am not invested and I don't care.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is definitely one that I just did not give two shits about and I will not recommend it.
Yeah, I liked it a little bit more than Scotty did.
I thought that it was an interesting take on witches. I have a lot of questions, though. There's one part where the mother kills a specific character. I really don't know why that happened. Why she felt she had to make that decision. I think it's something to do with life forces and stuff like that. I did enjoy the twist in this film. There was some cool gore that occurs. The band stuff is cool. They're in like a band, a mother-daughter band, and they play music and shit. I definitely liked it a little more than Scott did, but I hear what he's saying. Like, I think there was some really good line delivery. I think the acting was decent. I just feel like the plot was boring. Like, I feel like they got decent actors. They had, writers that moved along with the script, or maybe the actors just knew how to, maybe it was the directing. So the actors and the director knew how to deliver the lines to make it interesting, but the plot was just boring. Yeah. It was dragged out. It could have been a short. It could have been a short of 20 minutes and it would have been way more fucking interesting.
That's actually a good way to describe it.
And I think that, sometimes you have a movie that's a short that you can make into a full-length film. The Stylist from last year is a great example of that. Terrifier is a great example of that. Then you have movies that should just be made into shorts. Yeah. And they're okay to be shorts, and they get what they need to do. And I think this was a movie that could have been a short that they dragged out for, let's see here, how long was it? 90 something minutes.
It felt like 2 hours.
Yeah, it was, let's see here. It was 91, I believe. Yeah, 86 minutes in length. So it wasn't even an hour and a half, and it felt that long. And the ending kind of just abruptly ends with this like way that it started at the beginning. And yeah. So hopefully we see these actors in something else again, because they're not bad. But it has a 3.3 rating on Letterboxd, which I think is really high for this film. I don't know if it really deserves a 3.3 rating, but I would give it maybe a 2.0 rating because of the acting and stuff. But
yeah, I'd say about. I think I gave it maybe a 2.5. Like it was there.
Yeah, it was there. It wasn't the worst movie, but it wasn't the best. Anyway, it's available on Shudder, all the Shudders, and also AMC Plus. Yeah, if you really like witches and you like to see a different way that the folklore of witches are done, maybe check this out. But if you're not a big fan of witches, I don't know if you're really going to miss anything. I don't know if it's going to be something that's really going to hit home for you. So
right.
And Scott says don't watch it because he thinks it's boring as fuck. So.
Yeah, it is. when I'd rather ignore the movie that's playing in the background and work on my accounting work, and I'd rather play with numbers than watch this movie. That's saying something.
Well, unless Tim Davis was there,
then he'd be playing with something else. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? You'd be getting raging Scott Crawford.
Tim, we bring up Tim and now all the time.
He's my boyfriend.
He is. So I watched another Netflix fucking gem, The Weekend Away. And the only reason I watched this because it was Friday afternoon. I saw Lacey talk about how silly it was, so I thought I wanted to watch to see how silly it is. Definitely more of a thriller than a horror. Basically, I think if you have a wife that likes Lifetime films and wants to see something that's like kind of scary but also not too scary, then they should watch this. Synopsis: these two chicks go away to Croatia, one disappears, and then the other one has to figure out what's going to happen. And I was in the process of booking all my shit for Ireland, so I liked having a traveling movie on.
That fitting.
Right? But yeah, it's available on Netflix. I would say most people will not enjoy this who are horror fans. Refer this to somebody in your life that likes Lifetime films and thinks that it's thriller enough. It's like Open House. Remember when they had Open House on Netflix? Remember that?
I never bothered with that one because I heard so many bad things.
Yeah, and this didn't even have Sean Astin Moore taking his shirt off to save it every 5 seconds, like the other Netflix movie that I saw a couple of years ago last year, where every 5 seconds he took his fucking shirt off to be like,
I mean,
and I gotta make it with my wife.
If I was Sean Ashmore, I'd be taking my shirt off all the time. I'd just be walking around shirtless all the time.
There'd be no point of wearing a shirt. So those are our 2022 so far. I'm up to 30 movies watched in 2022. So how many movies are you up to?
You are ahead of me for sure. I'm at 24.
Oh, that's not bad. We're not too far off from each other.
Yeah, I've only gotten 3 in these last 2 weeks just because work has been chaotic. But hopefully this week will be a little more calm and I can kind of get caught up on some of these ones that you've recommended, especially Fresh and the Seed.
Fresh and the Seed. I think you'll enjoy the most.
Yeah, I'll definitely watch those and get caught up and then try to catch some newer ones to talk about on our next episode.
So I'm going to guess that you don't have any older films to talk about.
Of course not.
It's hard being the workhorse here, but
you are just carrying this show. It's got your shoulders have got to be sore from the weight.
Yes, the weight, the burden. The two older watches I'm going to talk about. One, some people probably argue isn't a horror film, but it's called Snowpiercer. It was an hour and 127 minutes long. Came out in 2013. It's on Netflix currently. It's 2031. The passengers in the train are the only survivors left on Earth. There's basically this train that just drives around Earth, and no one can live outside of it because we've reached the second ice age, and there's of course different positions that you have in the train. The people at the front of the train are the most wealthy, and then it works its way back to the people who are the poorest are at the back of the train. So Chris Evans is in this. There's actually a fair amount of stars. Chris Evans, Ann Harris, John Hurt, Tilda Swinton, Jamie Bell, Octavia Spencer. So yeah, like we're talking a pretty star-studded cast that they had in this movie. The acting is awesome. There's some really gory, gross fight scenes that occur in it. It's a very emotional film, but it's a very long film. So you do have to like sci-fi. This definitely kind of leans more on the sci-fi than the horror side. Next would be Psycho 2. I watched for the first time.
Yeah.
On another podcast that I help facilitate or run or whatever you want to say, host. We had to choose a movie from our birth year. So my birth year is 1983. And both Brandon and Scotty have said to me, Brandon Orley from the Exploding Heads movie podcast, a horror movie podcast, that they loved this film, Psycho 2. So I thought, well, I better watch it. If both Scotty and Brandon dig it, then they probably know what the fuck they're talking about. And they were right, man. What a good movie.
Right? Man. This was just a fantastic fucking film.
Right. And like, you really feel bad for Anthony Perkins / Norman Bates. Like it's sad.
Yeah, because he's just trying to live his life like after everything that happens. And then people keep fucking with him.
Yeah, like people are really, really cruel to him. And I really enjoyed watching him in this movie. I loved how he was trying to kind of get his life together while he was released, living at the house. Like, if you enjoyed the first Psycho movie, I definitely recommend checking this one out. I really had a good time with it. It's 113 minutes long, but it makes sense. Like, every scene in it is needed and required, so it makes sense that it has that length to it. I really liked it. I'm so glad I picked it for my 1983 watch, compared to some of the other shit that they made me watch that I won't go into, because some of those movies are fucking dreadful. But this was like, honestly, the prize pig. Like, it was the best movie that we watched. So I encourage everyone to watch Psycho 2 if they haven't had a chance to check it out.
Yep, this is my favorite of the Psycho franchise. Like, it's just because the first Psycho, obviously, instant classic, did so much for the horror genre.
Mm-hmm.
This one just has a much deeper story, and just like there's a lot to it, and it's just like you really feel for Norman Bates in this film.
Yeah, you do. They do a really good job of making him like a protagonist kind of thing.
Yeah.
And what happens at the end, you're just like, oh man, like this sucks, but I get it, right? Like I get it. And it's a great follow-up to the first one. So yeah, check it out if you haven't had a chance to watch it. It is available for rent on all of the major streaming services. So check it out, or maybe get someone who owns it and see if you can borrow it from them.
Yep, this is definitely one to have in a collection for sure.
So I guess we'll get into what's new. I'll let Scott go first because I'm doing lots of talking. So
all right, so for our What's New segment, I once again have decided to bring another band to the table, and that is a American band. Kind of plays like I would say kind of like a folklore or folk style music, kind of like what I was talking about with Amigo the Devil, and it is called Harley Poe. They're an American band from Kokomo, Indiana, and they originally started as an alias for Joe Whiteford in 2004 after his previous band Calibretto split up. They released their first album back in 2010, but they are basically a kind of like a folk music black comedy in a way. A lot of their music is focused on like horror films. One of them, actually, I think they've done a couple of songs based off of stories from Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah, and their music is so damn catchy. And the reason I heard of these guys is because a podcast I had brought up a very long time ago called The Horror Show with Sean and Joe. They had their intro music was Harley Poe's Gorehound song. And it's basically just singing about different horror movies and stuff like that. And they use that as their theme music for their intro. And I was just like, man, this is really catchy. I want to look into these guys. And I went down a YouTube rabbit hole years ago and I fucking fell in love with these guys. Their music is just so like just catchy, and the lyrics are kind of dark and disturbing because, like I said, they talk about horror films, the stories, and just kind of have a dark styling to them. And I highly recommend if you are into kind of like what I was bringing up before, Migo the Devil, Dead South, like bluegrass style, somewhat country-ish sounding. I definitely recommend this because they are amazing musicians, and Harley Poe has an amazing voice. Next time we get together, Heather, I'm gonna have to, like, since we do our little just together. Yes, and I was gonna say when we sit down and do our music.
Friday night. That's what we'll be doing. Hopefully on my patio. Hopefully it will be warm enough. Fuck, I hope so.
Yeah, but I'll be bringing a couple of their songs to the table for you to check out.
You're the best, Scotty. I can't wait. I can't wait to see your fluffy bum bum again.
It'll be fun.
Oh, I miss your fluffy bum bum so much.
I miss your fluffy bum bum as well.
Fluffy bum bum. All right. So that'll be good. Scott and I are going to rock out and get high and listen to this guy.
Fuck yeah. Rock out with my cock out.
Well, yeah. He'll probably be doing that too. He just doesn't put it away. We're always like,
I just kind of present it. It's like, and he's here like, it is. It's wanting to say hi.
It's my friend. He wants to come out.
And everyone would be like, why does it look like a baby holding an apple?
But yet it's a huge baby and a massive apple. So veiny. Anyway.
So veiny.
Everyone's like, are they going to go live for that video when they're in the backyard?
That's going to be the only fans where there'll be only one fan.
Scott registered separately for different accounts.
Yes, I'll be paying myself.
Sorry, Scott. You're like, you have like your laptop up and you're like surfing your own page and you're like,
throwing myself $5 every so often. Here you go. Hey, sexy. Here you go.
Right, you wouldn't lose any money.
Right, I'd just be giving it back to myself. I'm good.
It works out really, really well. Now I can't stop laughing about that. Okay, maybe I'll take you to this place when you come up. I went to a store that's called the Cabinet of Curiosities and Other Needful Things. And I did take some pictures, and I don't know if I shared them. Scott, did I send them to you?
No.
Oh, I did that purposely because I wanted you to be surprised.
Yeah, I was like, I knew you were going to go to this place, but I didn't know you actually went.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if I sent them to you or someone else. So, okay, that's good. I didn't send them to you yet. So that's good. So anyway, this place is fucking random. So basically they take everything. So I went with my friend Anne yesterday because I'm like, look, I need something different to talk about on my podcast. This is different. And there's going to be creepy shit there. So of course they had like a Ouija board and they had creepy
you played
dolls.
with it, didn't you?
But then they had fucking coffins with human bones.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Yeah, man. Yeah. And they had like these old school lobotomy kits, and they had like the old school dentist chair that looks like something that Jigsaw would be like, you have not appreciated your life, and now you must sit in this dentist chair and listen to me lecture to you on how I'm going to torture you because that's fine because I'm Jigsaw. So like they had that, and they had all these, of course, beautifully bound older books, and then creepy motherfucking dolls galore. Like
nice.
Many creepy dolls, like creepy dolls where I'm like, you wouldn't buy that if you've seen any fucking horror movie. You would be like, you could stay here. Like the worst thing you could do is buy those dolls and then the fucking Ouija board.
Right.
And then they had clown shoes, just randomly like old school looking clown shoes. And then they would have these like old bottles from like the 1900s that were labeled and stuff. And then they had like newspapers from 1896.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, like they had crazy shit. Bunch of coffins, tons of coffins. They had like 3 or 4 or 5 coffins. And like coffins that were old, like from the Victorian time era. Yeah, and then bones and collections, human skulls and like other skulls. Like it was fucking crazy. Like there was, see, look at your eyes. Taxidermy animals. Like it was definitely one of those films that you would see in like one of those stories you would see in a Goosebumps episode, right? The kids would be like, oh, let's go down to the local curiosities. And like the whole thing is based on this store that people buy items from it and there's curses. It's an anthology waiting to happen.
It is an anthology waiting to occur at this store. And I think that's what they're going for, is I think they eventually want to be like a Pawn Star kind of thing, because they have stickers and shit, and they take in all the weirdest shit that they can. And people were spending money on it. I tried to find some jewelry, because I had some jewelry there, but I didn't really see anything I really liked. But I'll take you there when you come up, and I have some pictures that I will remember to share when this podcast drops. I'll probably share them on the Friday night that I took to our page. And the link, if you want to check it out, is it is in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, and it's definitely like creepy galore. And maybe Scott and I will do a live video when we go to it when he comes up in April, because it is the most interesting thing I've seen. We could do that on the day of my birthday, because it's just in Hamilton and it's close.
Right, that works out.
Right, we may go to Niagara on the Lake on the Friday, because I don't think I've taken you to Niagara on the Lake yet, which is also creepy and like haunted and shit. So, you know, we can make it a whole ghost-filled weekend.
Hell yeah, that'd be awesome.
Right, that's what Scotty and I do. We do
right,
creepy, weird shit and drink. That's what Scotty and I do.
Because we're creepy and weird and love to drink.
That's what we like to do. But yeah, so that's the store, and hopefully they do well. They managed to survive the pandemic so far. Maybe it's because all the cursed items won't let the store close. Who knows? But
right. And now you've inspired me though, because there is a place called the Oddities out in Lapeer, Michigan. That's something similar to this in a way, from what I've heard. I've never been there.
You should go.
So I was gonna say, maybe this inspires me to go out and see these places. And there's also a place. I gotta figure out where it is, but maybe I'll take Mandy with me to go to this place. But it's
I was gonna say, take Mandy so she can find a voodoo doll, so when you snore, she can stab it and it makes you stop.
Yeah, there's a Museum of Death, which is like literally just like how embalmers deal with stuff, and it's just like got like human skulls and everything in there. I've always wanted to go to it and just never have. So yeah, maybe that's some stuff I'll try to do this year for our What's New podcast, or What's New stuff
section, right? Like cool shit that we can do. But yeah, we'll definitely check out this store when you come up. But yeah, it is an anthology film waiting to happen, and pictures will be shared to the page if you want to check it out, or our Facebook group.
Hell yeah, yeah! You gotta send those pictures to me too, because I gotta see this before we.
Well, I will now, because I let the cat out of the bag. I held out. I'll send them to you on our break that we take. Sweet. Because Scott and I, have to go drink before we come back to the podcast.
We got to drink to deal with each other.
Oh, it's true. Like, it's not wrong. It's not wrong. So when we come back, we'll be talking about some Irish films, and hopefully we all had a good time with these films. We'll see. Actually, our first film has a lot to do with drinking, so it's really fitting right. That we said drinking. But after these messages, we'll be right back.
This'll keep it quiet. Oh, hi there. I didn't see you. You caught me cutting a new show. I'm Bo Ransdell, and I'm one of the many creators you can find on Legion Podcasts. I said quiet! My fellow podcasters and I work hard to bring you the best in horror podcasting, but that comes at a cost. Wouldst thou like to live deliciously? Not that, but also yes. No, what I'm getting at is that there are server costs for good microphones and software for editing, all the things that make our shows, fun to listen to. And you can help. If you're enjoying the shows on legionpodcasts.com or in the Legion Network available on iTunes and Stitcher, just about anywhere you can download a podcast, really, you can help us out and get a little something for your trouble at patreon.com/Legion Podcasts. For just $2 a month, you get a pair of movie commentaries exclusive to Patreon, and for $5, you can also join us for a monthly screening of a movie. All of that available on patreon.com/Legion Podcasts. We appreciate it, and thank you for listening. Now, back to the cutting room.
So, welcome back. And today, in spirit of St. Patty's Day coming up, we are not covering The Leprechaun, and we are talking about other Irish films. Which apparently, I did hear from my friend in Ireland that when The Leprechaun came out, people in Ireland were very upset about it.
I wouldn't be surprised.
And it's because of how they portrayed the leprechaun, because leprechauns in Ireland are seen to be feared. Now, this one was feared too, but they're like, it's not wisecracking. Anyway, that you can catch them, but they trick you. Similar with something else we're going to talk about in here as well. Irish folklore is so fascinating to me. I cannot wait to be there and experience it, because I believe in a lot of this stuff. I think there's things we can't explain or understand, and I'm looking forward to learning more.
Yeah, I was gonna say, because obviously when we do these different country, different language horror films, there's always like some type of theme that we notice with each one. And this one, just because Irish movies, they all tend to focus a lot on the folk tales, the folk horror, a lot of like mythologies and like the real way they are represented instead of the cute, fluffy way that Americans and North Americans and everybody else probably sees them as.
Yeah.
Like leprechauns obviously are more evil and mischievous.
And they definitely didn't go to space or the hood.
Right. I mean, I don't know. One of them might have showed up in the hood in Ireland.
Yeah, maybe. I never got a chance because unfortunately this is a gentleman I don't speak with anymore to ask him what he thought of 2018 Leprechaun, because that was a little more serious. I thought was like the most recent one, or was it? Maybe I need to rewatch it again. I watched it last year and I really
liked it. It was serious, but it was also kind of a horror comedy.
Yeah, that's true. Both and the Leprechaun movies were meant to be that, right?
Yeah,
like they're horror comedies for sure. But yeah, anyway, we didn't cover any of Leprechaun movies for this. No. We chose to go with, I guess you would say in some cases, lesser known or really well-known Irish films. I've definitely kind of doubled down into UK and Irish films recently, obviously because I'm traveling there. Happens when you're going to do something, you kind of jump into a theme. And I really enjoy Irish and UK films. I'll be honest. I like, they're not my favorite. Like, I think Spanish is still my favorite, but like, man, like they're fun. They're fun films.
Oh yeah, like there a lot of like very interesting takes on horror films, and like I said, I love it because a lot of the Irish horror films seem to focus on their mythologies.
And did you notice that after watching all these films, you saw some of the similar actors in all of them?
No, I didn't actually.
Oh yeah, like there's some people in Grabbers that are in The Boys from County Hell.
Oh
yeah, like it's really interesting. There was one guy in particular, and there was names I began to recognize, and maybe because I've seen other Irish horror films too. I'm like, yep, seen that guy before. Yep, seen that girl before, because it's the Irish Film Board that makes a lot of these films. I think the Irish Film Board made all of them, and it's obviously like there's only so many actors in Ireland. Like Ireland's a relatively small country, right? So like there's a couple of big players, and they're in a lot of these films, and they're really good, actually, really good acting. So I guess we'll get to the first one. So why don't we start off?
All right. So the first film we will be talking about in our Irish horror movies is Grabbers, released December 26, 2012. Residents of an island off the coast of Ireland learn that the only way to survive an invasion of blood-sucking aliens is to stay drunk.
Oh, man.
This movie was freaking hilarious. Like, these aliens are literally bloodsuckers. They will latch onto somebody and drain them of all their blood. Mm-hmm. And as the story, this is obviously a horror comedy, and actually sci-fi horror comedy. I would put this more in the category.
Sci-fi horror comedy for sure.
But yeah, like they're like weird tentacled aliens that just start terrorizing this Irish town. And I love that the townsfolk realize like there's one guy that just somehow survived an alien attack and was able to fight it off, even though it latched itself to him and started trying to drink its blood.
Yeah.
And it's because this guy is known as the town drunk, and the alcohol was actually poisoning the alien. So the alien could not drink it without dying. So it like ran away and like left him alive. So everyone in the town realizes, shit, let's get together at a pub and everyone, let's get freaking wasted and try to fight off these aliens. And oh my god, so much drunken shenanigans happened during this, and it's so damn entertaining. Like I had watched this probably about 3 or 4 years ago and just had a good time with it, and rewatching it today, like it still made me like it's a simple plot, but it's just fun.
It really is a simple plot. Like we're not talking about something complicated here, and it really does set it up to kind of be like a little bit of a romantic thing too. Yeah. The chick, Lisa Nolan, arrives, and she's the very like do it by the book sergeant, and the guy that she's meeting, because the I guess the head sergeant's going on vacation. So this other dude, Cesarian O'Shea, is like, not the town drunk, but obviously drinks a lot and is drunk all the time because nothing really happens in the small Ireland town. I'm assuming it's out near Belfast, like that kind of area. And it's kind of removed from everything else. And it's interesting, the main characters that are in this, because they all kind of, go to this one pub that's owned by this couple. and they're trying to get the girl and the dude to hook up, and it's really some really fucking funny lines. Like some of the things that stand out for me is there's also this zoologist or marine biologist that's there. And like they first notice something's wrong when these whales all seem to die at the same time and are washed ashore. And the guy shows up, he's like, are they all dead? And the marine biologist is like, no, they're just sleeping. Like it was like there was some funny shit that was said in this movie that was clever. And there's another part where they're kind of unsure about this alien. Obviously this, creature monster thing has killed a bunch of people. And the two main characters go into this cave and they're trying to find it, and it comes out, and the design of it was good. Like I thought the creature design in this was epic. I don't know what you thought, Scotty. You're more of a creature fan than I am, but
oh yeah, this is like some Lovecraftian monster type shit. Tentacled being that sucks blood and comes from the ocean.
Yeah, it comes from the ocean, is like hanging out and has babies, and like they're trying to dissect one of the babies. And at one point, like they're like, don't get it wet. Whatever you do, don't get it wet. So they come back to burn it, and they light it on fire in the lab, and the sprinkler system comes on, and the marine biologist, don't get it wet. You are Irish, aren't you? He says to the chick, right? So at this point, the marine biologist has been looking at this woman like she's like above everyone else in this town because he thinks she's smarter. And then he makes that comment like, you're just dumb like the rest of us, which I think is funny. Right. There's some really funny fucking one-liners in this movie. And I did enjoy the romance that kind of subtly happens between the two main characters. I thought it was cute, and at one point she has to get completely drunk because she's the healthiest out of all of them, and she gets completely intoxicated, and they take her blood sample to see if this whole theory actually works. And I thought this movie was going to be a lot sillier than it was, but it was well written. It has great effects. The creature effects are amazing. Especially there's one part where the whole town ends up being at the fucking pub. They basically tell her when it's open bar and they're all going to get drunk, and they run out of alcohol. They drink all the alcohol on the island. And our two main characters are outside basically, trying to protect against the creature, and the creature shows up, and there's these showdowns, and it's fucking awesome. Like the third act of this movie and the money they put into their special effects, like like fucking beautiful. I would rewatch this movie. I'll probably watch it before I go to Ireland again, or go again like I'm a frequent traveler, like when I go there for the first time, because I just think it's incredible. It's such a fun film.
Yeah, because like you're saying, like it's you thought it'd be more silly than it actually is. It is silly, but it's got a lot of heart to it. It reminds me of a lot of the horror comedies that I really fall in love with that are not like the slapsticky gory ones, but like just the more ones that take the situation seriously while having silly things happening in that situation, but like done and you love all the characters because they are all just like, they're all likable people, and you don't want anything bad to happen to any of them. And obviously when you get drunk, you make dumb decisions, and some of them make accidentally dumb decisions that get some of them killed, but
they're comical dumb decisions, right? Yes. But there's decisions where you're like, I did feel bad when that one character got killed. Like I actually did. I was like,
the one with the super soaker?
No, well, we can spoil it. The marine biologist.
Oh, yes. Yep.
Right. I kept hoping he was going to pop back up later. Like he maybe like fell in the water or something, which obviously wasn't the case.
Right.
Because I thought he was funny. Like that's the thing. What really got me about this movie was some really fucking funny one-liners.
Yeah.
Like there were some really great one-liners that were delivered. Like even the town drunk guy, at one point he's in the bar and he's like, oh yeah, I bring my own moonshine, I make my own booze, and then like they give it to everyone because they have to get to the same blood alcohol level that this town drunk's at, and he just drinks all the time. And
yeah.
And it's just, and obviously it's playing on the drinking culture of Ireland and how much people drink and party, right?
And see, I was worried because I watched this a long time ago and couldn't remember like a lot of it, but I was like, is this going to be insulting, like, and be a stereotype thing? And no, it actually wasn't insulting.
No, like you had the town drunk, and then you had everyone else that was kind of like, obviously they would go out to the pub to socialize and have a good time. And, you have your main male lead whose wife left him for somebody else. So he drinks at night to and there's nothing going on in the town. Nothing's really happening. Like it's a small seaside Irish community. Like there's not much that goes on a daily basis. But there's another scene where they're at the church, and that's where they're trying to get people to go to the pub so they're safe, right? They're like, okay, this creature comes out at night, it's going to come and eat people. Suck their blood. And they're like at the parish and like trying to get people to come back to the bar, and they're like, well, why would we all be alone when we could be at the pub? And everyone's like, but why would I leave my house? And then when they go, and it's an open bar, and they're all like,
right. I mean, hell, if you were told it was an open bar in a bar, fuck yeah, you'd be going. If you liked alcohol,
right? And then there's this, like, even there's an older woman who like shoots back a bunch of beers, and they tell her that she can't leave because like eventually people want to leave because they run out of booze, and they're like, no, you can't leave. She's like, I can leave if I want. Like, she's fucking like Irish fucking bull, like, fuck you, I'm old and I'm leaving this fucking bar if I want to. It's just really, really well done. This film is really fun. It reminds me of Shaun of the Dead in the sense that it's just high quality writing, great line delivery, like, and you don't have to be Irish to get it. Like, there's just funny shit that happens that you're like, that's funny. Like, that's
right.
You know, and I agree. They're not making fun of the culture. They're not making fun of alcoholism or anything like that. They're just poking fun at like, well, the Irish got to get super drunk to like avoid these aliens. And I'll be honest, Scotty, I was dreading watching this movie. I was like,
were you really?
Yeah. Now, this wasn't the worst movie on our list by far, because I love this movie. If we were to do if we were to ever do a top 100, it would probably be in my top 100. That's awesome. How much I enjoyed it. Like, I just thought it was so much fun. And I really love when horror comedies can combine in great special effects. Yet again, this movie put its money where it fucking mattered. Yeah. Like, when they needed to show the creature in its full form, it was great. Like, it was great. I believed that was the creature. I believed that stuff was happening. And that's a great film. The writing, the delivery, obviously people who, could play off each other. The chemistry was there. I really like this film. I have nothing but praise for it. If you like horror comedies and creature features, this one's for you. Yep.
Completely agree. Like, I was wondering what you had thought of it, because I'm going, all right, like, I know some horror comedies hit or miss with Heather. Let's see how this one does. But I was like, this is definitely a very Irish film. So I was like, this one has to be in our topic for sure.
This is a 5 out of 5 for me. That's how much awesome. I like this film. The one-liners, the subtlety of the one-liners that were in this is probably what did it over. There was just so many funny fucking one-liner comments that people would make as a one-off. Like, even at one point where they're like, say to the chick, and she's like, they're like, well, we need you to get drunk because you're the fittest. She's like, thank you. And yeah, well, it's true. As she's walking away, right? Like, it's just funny shit. Like, that's my sense of humor. Like, I like that kind of dry, sarcastic, one-liner sense of humor. So for me, it just spoke my language. And if this is Lovecraftian, it makes it a Lovecraftian film that I enjoyed, and it has a Lovecraftian monster in it, so I'm gonna go with it.
Because I was gonna say, to me, I think it's kind of Lovecraftian just because of the fact the monster is this weird tentacled thing that really has no rhyme or reason, and comes from the deep ocean.
Well, we could even say it comes from a land down under.
Touche.
It's definitely something you would find in Australia.
Yes, and Tim Davis has already punched it.
Well, that's why it's so angry.
Right? He came to Ireland to get its revenge.
It's like, fuck you, I'm coming to get my revenge now. But yeah, this was a great movie. Totally enjoyed it. Totally would recommend it. I don't know what else to add. Like, I just think that it also showcases how beautiful Ireland is as well. Like the coastal side of the town. And it kind of also ends with like is it really over? Which like typically creature features do. Yeah. It always ends with that, but is it over?
It's not over.
And just so we're clear, it's never over in a creature feature film. The creatures, especially in the films we're talking about today, even in the last one, I suspect it's never over.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly. Right. Speaking of which, I guess we can jump on into the next film.
Well, which is also a creature feature, only a little bit more darker, where Grabbers was kind of fun-loving, fluffy, fun, happy ending.
Yeah, this one takes a different turn.
Yeah, it takes a little bit of a different go to it. So let's break it down.
All right. So the next movie we are talking about is called The Hallow. It was released on June 26th, 2015. After moving to a remote house in a forest in Ireland, a family starts noticing strange sounds and occurrences. As the lights fall and the warnings of the villagers ring in their ears, they soon realize they have to fight to survive. So this is basically a man, his wife, and their baby. they go to this house, and he is I think it was more or less he was going out there to start kind of getting ready to do like some development stuff, and they had to like
they're
chop
removing
down
some trees, and he's out there kind of figuring out which ones will be removed. And what I think is interesting, and I wouldn't have commented on this if it wasn't for, me becoming this worldwide traveler and planning my trip to Ireland and the UK, that this couple's from London.
Yes.
And I think that's really important to remember, because this is rural Ireland. And in like very similar to Grabbers, which is why a lot of people were like, oh yeah, fuck, it's an alien. That makes sense. Okay, we got it. Yeah, that occurs. There's a lot of folklore in rural Ireland, and they're more likely to believe this stuff. So I think there's also that culture clash that's reflected in the Hollows, or the Hallow, of this, kind of uppity couple. They're not uppity. They're actually very nice people, but coming there and not understanding the ways of rural Ireland and their beliefs and the folklore and other such things.
Yep, because you have these these couple of villagers that come up to the guy and go, you need to leave this area alone. This is a sacred chunk of land right here that is pretty much known to house these fairies. And like, just leave it alone. Like, these fairies are what took my daughter and blah blah blah. And it's like, just stay away. Do not do this. And of course, the guy's just like, oh, this is just some mumbo jumbo, like rural villager mythology stuff. It's like, I'm just going to ignore it and continue doing my work and everything, because that's what I'm here for. And no, they were right. There is this like little chunk of forest / meadows. Like, I think they called it the Haven or something like that. And like, there is these fairy-like creatures that show up at night that end up start attacking the household and stealing their child. But one thing that was never explained until it happens is they can turn others into their kind.
Yep.
With I think it was just by like stabbing them in the eye or poking them with their claws, like, it will slowly start to transform you.
And you'll turn into a fairy as well. Yeah.
Yes. And this is one we talked about before, where I was like, I remember you had brought it up when you, like, one of your first time watches, and I was like, it reminded me of the Creatures of the Descent. And rewatching it.
Oh, you muted yourself, Scotty?
My cat muted me, of all things.
Oh, fucking pussy.
Right here. This little troublemaker.
Oh, and I just heard her purr into the mic. Oh my gosh.
Little shithead. But anyways.
That's funny.
Yeah, like I was saying, I thought these creatures reminded me of the ones from The Descent. They move similar to the ones from The Descent, but the looks of them are more like they are made of the trees. They have like wood. They almost have like bark-like skin and stuff like that.
Yes, that's a really good description, actually. I now, we all know this is in my top 50 horror movies of all time. So I have a very strong love affair for this movie. And honestly, Grabbers might be pretty close and may kick out someone else in their 50s and end up in my top 50 too. But what I really like about The Hallow is the slow build of this story. And I love the relationship. Like, I've never felt for a baby that doesn't speak as much as I did for fucking Finn. I don't know what it is with this baby, but they made this baby a fucking character with like it not doing anything but being a baby. Like, it's just so fucking cute to start off with. And the dad obviously has this really close relationship. Like, he takes Finn out with him to, he's like to do the tree stuff, and he's talking to Finn a lot. Like, really good, like, parent-child interaction.
Great. I was gonna say, like, they are both great parents in this film.
And the way they sell the relationship with the baby that can't even talk. Like, honestly, like, that's how good these two actors are. And when they're at the house, and I'm going to do a little bit of prep stuff here, and you kind of see there's like a romantic stuff. Like, you can see they truly love each other, and there's almost about to be some intimacy. And then Finn starts crying, and then he starts increasing crying. I felt anxiety still to this point. I knew it was going to happen. And all it is just something to smash through the window. But I was all like, get to the fucking baby! Right? So, and they call the cops in, and I love the cops segue to teaching us about the rural folklore.
Yes.
Like, I thought that scene was really smart, that the cop comes out. He's like, yeah, someone broke your window. This is rural Ireland. People have different beliefs here, and they don't think like you do from London. You've come to a different area. Like, he's almost being like, I believe you that something happened here, but I don't think it was them. Like, he obviously believes in some of it too, right? Or he's unsure. Yes. That was the vibe I got anyway. I don't know if you got that vibe.
That's what I got as well. Like, they're like, yeah, we've never actually seen anything, but we do have this superstition.
Right. And he goes into town, and he goes to get like his window fixed, and the fucking dude says something disturbing, and everyone's polite to them, but they're warning them. And as he takes the window, the guy says, I can fix this, but if your wife doesn't put up the iron, there's not much that can be done. And I just love the delivery of that line, because it's done, you know, first of all, you're like, what the fuck is this guy doing outside the house? How does he know that my wife took down the iron? How does anyone know this? But it's almost the way he delivers it, like, it's not going to matter if you don't follow through here and realize what's happening. And of course, the neighbors delivered the book about the folklore. They think it's fairy tales and they think it's fluffy. Like, it's everything is really, really well done to lead up to the chase scene in the house, which is the real, like they have a little chase scene where the dad's driving back and the car breaks down. What did you think of that scene?
Oh yeah, that scene was intense, where he's basically having to hoof it back home after that, and just
did you think the baby was going to be taken? Did you think Finn was going to be taken? So the car breaks down for everyone.
Yeah, because I thought, like, because I'd seen this before, but like, it had been years, like, I think since 2015 actually, and so I watching it now, like, because he left Finn in the back seat while he was trying to get the car working, and you hear Finn just screaming, and I'm like, oh fuck, the monster just grabbed him. Yeah,
like, you're like, one of the fairies took the baby, right? And that's where I thought the switch was going to come out. It doesn't, you know, eventually they get back to the house, and then the fairies break into the fucking house, and it's just fucking chaos.
Yeah,
there's incredible scenes of her holding back the door, of trying to prevent these fairies from getting up into the attic. A scene of him using the axe to chop one of them in the roof. Now, it's filmed in the dark, which is smart. You keep your creature in the dark, as you always say, Scotty. And I thought the creatures in this whole second act was just like, the second act kind of leading into the third was fucking, like, it was nail biting. Like, it went from like build to bang, 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 bang action for like the last bit of the movie.
Yeah, it ended up being like a straight up siege on the house.
Yes.
And like, especially once they get to the attic and you see like the hands like ripping through the flooring, and oh my god, it's horrifying. Like, because the mother is right there trying to fight them off, and like they got the long elongated claws and everything, and their hands just look absolutely horrifying, like demon hands.
Oh man, it's fucked. And then they hurt the dad, and he starts to like change, I think. Is that where?
Because I think he ended up getting something in his eye, or he got cut right in the eye.
Yeah.
And that eye ends up going like a milky white, and he starts having like rage issues, and like starts like slowly just like kind of losing it and forgetting what's going on, or like just like seeing something that is not there. And like he sees Finn, but he sees like a changeling version of Finn.
But it was a changeling, though.
Right.
Here's the
like,
thing,
he was right that time.
Right. Here's the thing that I thought was fucking crazy about this movie on a second watch. So I love how you segued into that. So he gets hurt and is slowly turning into a fairy. And now when we say fairy people, we're not talking like Tinkerbell. We're talking like some fucking scared, as Scott, you know, eloquently described it earlier, some scary shit. And they take the baby, she chases it, goes into a marsh where she thinks she finds her son, and brings him back. And she says to her husband, like, she gives him Finn and goes, he needs to be changed and washed. And her husband looks at him and goes, this isn't Finn. This isn't Finn. And when first time I watched this movie, I'm like, oh, he's crazy. Yeah. He's crazy, right? Which isn't the case. It wasn't Finn. And I think the reason why is because he was turning into a fairy, he could now see things through their perspective.
Mm-hmm.
So he could see that it was a trick, which is, you know, that again, very common in Irish folklore, is that you're being played a trick.
And since he was still human, but also a little bit on the fairy side, he still had his faculties enough to be like, wait, this isn't my son. Where if he was full fairy, he just wouldn't have said anything.
Well, no, because he would have known the baby was going to be changed as well, right?
Yeah.
And I really love the back and forth between himself and his wife. I would say this movie needs 2 watches. It needs a first time watch. Now, I know we realized we spoiled it for people who, but if you haven't, hopefully you have watched it for the first time before you've watched this. You know, we do spoilers in this section. But if you watch it on a second time, knowing what's going to happen, I found it just as equally interesting, because I'm like, would I have caught this? Like, would I have put it together that he was telling the truth? I don't think I would have. And that's a good fucking film to make me like, I know the outcome now, so I know what it was, but I'm like, nah, nothing in his behavior would make me really figure it out, because they do such a good job of making it look he's going crazy instead of the fact that he's turning and fighting it. Right. Like, and then of course we have, you know, the scene where she's rejected from the neighbor. that doesn't want to help her, and he goes out to get the baby. He finds the real Finn. He finds Cora, who is the little girl that went missing. He stands off with the fairies, and then the switcheroo scene. Yeah, even the first time I saw this movie, I'm like, which is the real Finn? Like, I really didn't know, right?
Yeah, and I was saying, like, this is where you see that the husband is pretty much changed over, like, I'd say about 80% changed over to fairy, because like everything, like he's starting to have like the bark skin and spikes showing up through his flesh, and he's like almost fully gone. He's got like a little bit left of him, of his human side, and it's just enough to like basically save her
and his child. And like, talk about fucking makeup yet again. Bravo movie for using your budget where it counted. And his transition, because they film it in the dark, and because the fairies live in the dark, just so we're clear, they can't be in sunlight. It is fucking amazing. And this whole scene where there's the two Finns, the trick and the real Finn, and you're wondering, is she going to fucking pick the right one? And as she's running away and he sacrifices himself to fight off the other fairies, you see the sunlight coming in, and you see the Finn that was left behind turn and to dust, because it was a trick, and she has the real Finn. And fuck, is such an emotional ending. This is, this movie, just watching it again just solidified for me why it was in my top 50. It's just such a good fucking film.
Yeah, it's a dark, heavy film, but it talks about mythology in such a realistic way and pulls in a lot of the folklore from back then. Like, and the one thing that I loved is that iron is one thing that hurts the fairies. That is a thing that I have known for years from being into the mythologies that I have been into, because fairies are afraid of iron because it hurts them. And it's always been something I knew about with the fairy, like the fae folk, basically. And I'm glad they brought that into this, because it's definitely true mythology.
Absolutely. No, I couldn't agree more. And even the ending of this is a quasi happy ending in a sense, because, Finn survives and the mom survives. And then have you watched it through the credits?
No.
So it's starting on the forest. Like, there's a music playing in the background, and then it kind of starts to focus in on the forest, and all you hear is the sound of the fairies.
Oh.
Right. It's a really interesting environmental film too. It does talk on environmentalism, and they're talking about the privatization sale of forests in Ireland. And man, this is a must-watch movie. I think this and Grabbers, if you're interested in Irish films or any good films in general, mythology wise, this one obviously isn't funny. There's nothing really funny in the Hallow. Grabbers is comical, but both are worth your time. Check them out.
Completely agree. Like, the Hallow, rewatching, I'm glad I did, because this movie was fucking awesome.
Right. And then we have another movie that wasn't as fucking awesome, but that's okay. We'll talk. Not
all of them can be winners.
Not all of them can be winners. So I'll let Scott lead us in.
All right. So the next film we're going to talk about is probably one that kind of strays away from any mythology for the most part.
Which was weird, because it was supposed to be mythology.
Yeah, and it just kind of strays away from it. But that film is called Don't Leave Home, which was released March 10th, 2018. The synopsis is: an American artist's obsession with a disturbing urban legend leads her to an investigation of the story's origins at the crumbling estate of a reclusive painter in Ireland. I was just telling Heather this off of break. I watched this movie 3 days ago at this point, and I'm having a hard time remembering anything that happened in it. And then when I went to go log it into Letterboxd, apparently I had seen this before sometime in 2018, because I had logged it and rated it 3 out of 5 stars. I watched this and had no recollection that I've ever watched this before. So that is saying something about this film, that it just did not hold my attention. I don't know why I gave it 3 out of 5 stars. Because if it didn't hold my attention, it should have at least been a 2.5. Because it was like a good, well-made movie, but entertainment-wise did not stick out. So, it's films basically about this woman that had kind of recreates this, what would that statue be, like a Mother Mary statue almost?
Sure, yeah, we'll go with that, Virgin Mary.
Like, she's trying to recreate it out in these woods, and this reclusive painter basically hires her to do this, and just kind of weird shit starts happening around the house. Like, you kind of think that's going towards the mythology of what this meaning of the statue has to do with anything, and it really doesn't. Like it ends up just being more about the weirdos in the house.
And I think they were supposed to be witches. Like I think
I was confused. Was like
witches.
witches or like some type of demonic presence or something.
So this woman is an American, and she does this like collection that gets a really bad review, but this, world-renowned painter in Ireland says he likes her work and he wants her to come over. So she does. Originally, I thought she was in Ireland, and then she was just going there. But anyway, it's not bad. The interactions between the two main characters, Melanie and Alistair, are fine. Alistair is actually obviously a pretty good actor. Melanie is fine for the role that she plays in. I think what this movie suffered from was inconsistency of plot. And lacking strong dialogue. There was some dialogue that was good, and then it kind of just dragged it out, because what you think she's going there, and you get the sense that there's some creepy stuff happening. She's having visions when she's sleeping, and eventually they're really pressuring for her to stay for this unveiling of her artwork. And like, it is the most fucking I want to be Clockwork Orange, but I'm not fucking scene I've ever seen. Like all these fucking white dudes are in top hats at this party and making condescending remarks to her and very like toxic masculinity shit, but they're old. And then she gets drugged and she's kind of put into this trance-like state. And then she's sacrificed by what seems this cult of witches or wardlocks or I don't know, random people to another dimension, because that's what this guy can do with his paintings. That's his gift. And she finds there's other people that have been sacrificed and she's trying to get back. And the guy who did the paintings wants to get out of this cult thing because he used to be a priest. Like, I think the story looked good on paper, but then when they actually applied it, it just didn't have the same delivery that it could have. We had a hard time picking the fourth movie. I was going to get us to do Shrooms, but Shrooms is really funny and not really about any kind of Irish folklore. It's just basically a slasher set in Ireland. And I was thinking of Wakewood, but I wasn't sure if Scott would like Wakewood. I feel like I should have chose Wakewood, but that's okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think I may have watched that one. I'm not sure. Sounds familiar.
Yeah, it's a 2012. It's basically like Pet Sematary. A little girl dies and you can bring a child back for 3 days.
Okay.
And she comes back not the same, spoiler. But yeah, so this movie, there's really not much to unpack. I think it was supposed to be a story about witches. I'm not quite sure.
Yeah, like I was really confused because then the whole trance-like dream state. I'm going, what the hell is going on now? This is not the route that I expected it to go.
Yeah.
There really wasn't a lot happening. Like, I love the whole, hey, let's bring an artist here to do, like, for this weird, creepy dude to do work for him and unveil. I'm like, I like the idea of this.
Yeah.
And it just unfolded in a strange way that just didn't make sense to me. Like, and like I said, like, I watched this 3 days ago and I already forgot majority of what happened, especially towards the end. Like, I remember getting drugged and waking up in like a dreamlike world.
Yeah,
and
like
other than
and
that,
were all the other people that had been drugged. It's like their life forces had been drained.
Yeah.
And given to the people that want to be in Clockwork Orange, but the Target version of it. It was dumb. It was not like, it started off with a strong premise. I was like, oh, this could be really interesting. And then I was like, this is just really fucking weird. The third act is where it kind of crumbled, which is a shame. But you know what, Ireland, you can't hit them all out of the park. So
right, exactly. Like, and this is probably one I probably should have watched at home instead of at work, because I could have given it a little more of my attention. But at the same time, I have a feeling if I watched it at home, I would have been grabbing for my phone more.
Oh yeah, you were on your phone the entire time. It was out of all four, it wasn't the worst movie I've ever seen.
No, it's not horrible
films, but I think that it was just a disappointment because it took what we were expecting for mythology, of whatever mythology it was trying to present, and just didn't do a good job of delivering. Did a good job of build up, but the delivery just wasn't there.
Yep, I'll say it was well made, it was well acted, had an interesting idea for a plot, and it just kind of went a path. It almost went like an art house style path. While not being art house. Yeah,
it was. Anyway, we don't recommend it. So stick with the Hallow and Grabbers. Watch Shrooms. Shrooms is fucking funny.
Shrooms is hilarious.
Watch that, or Wakewood. Those are better films than this, and we should have picked one of those.
But we'll move on to our final film.
All right. So the final film, it came out 2020. I think it dropped on Shudder last year, but it's Boys from County Hell, released April 2020. A crew of hardy road workers led by a bickering father and son must survive the night when they accidentally awaken an ancient Irish vampire. I remember when we first talked about this film on our What We Watched segment, I kind of compared this to Shaun of the Dead, but rewatching it now, no, this is definitely more horror than Shaun of the Dead. Like there is some comedy in it, but it's like it's sprinkled throughout, like at a nice pace. So it's not nearly as slapsticky. But I love this because it's like basically they have the cairn out in the middle of the field where it's supposed to be the corpse of what would be considered basically Dracula, where Bram Stoker got his idea, because originally the vampire lore came from Ireland.
Yeah, like everything came from Ireland.
Just then other cultures stole the idea and used it for their own.
Yeah.
So I love the fact that they actually focus on the fact that the vampire mythology came from Ireland. I love that. And I love that this type of vampire isn't the type that's like, I'm going to suck your blood by biting your neck or whatever. No, it like somehow magically drains people's blood from wherever he is, and it just comes out of every hole and orifice of people's bodies and just pools to the ground and just slowly gets like the blood moves towards the vampire. I love that that's how like the mythology for this one and how they did that. That is freaking awesome. And like the characters in this, like you feel so bad because you got the main character who is this young kid who's
Eugene.
Eugene. That's just kind of like just being like typical like young adult, just wanting to drink and have fun and not really worry about working, just kind of going job for job. And then he decides to finally get a job and ends up being the one that smashes this cairn with a forklift and kind of is what awakens the vampire underneath. And
it's crazy. Well, and also his buddy gets killed in the field. I think the setup for this is really smart because they have some tourists that show up that they take out, and they're Canadian, by the way.
Yes, I love that, wearing maple leaves on their shirts.
Right, and ridiculous. And they take them out to the field, and they're telling them the story of vampirism in Ireland, and they scare them, and they fucking take off. And it's funny, like, and I like that segue because it gives you the rural history. I think this movie was really well written. Same with the Hallow. Like, I felt like I got a really they were like, well, we'll have some tourists come. They'll be at the pub. We'll make them Canadian, which about time. And we'll tell them the story as they're walking out to, so they're also involving the audience on what's going on too.
Yeah, like it's a good way of doing the exposition.
Yeah, and later on, Eugene's friend William gets killed by a bull out in the middle of this field. They're walking home drunk, and he gets killed, and his blood seeps into the ground where the vampire is, right? And I really enjoyed like the layers of how they built onto this film. I enjoy the interaction between Francis and Eugene, who's Francis is his dad. There's some clever fucking one-liners that go back and forth between the two of them. Like, there was one scene that I thought was really, really funny. So the vampire basically turns one of the other dudes, like one of the older guys that's guarding this area, right? And yet again, the pipeline doesn't want to be laid. No one wants this pipeline through. It's destroying people's homes, et cetera, et cetera. He gets turned, and then there's this huge conflict, and they're trying to kill this vampire, and they can't kill him. I thought that was hilarious. I don't know if you thought that was funny, but what do? They like try stabbing him through the heart. Doesn't work.
Yep, they stab him through the heart. What else was there? I'm trying to forget. I just watched this yesterday, and I'm already drawing.
Like, they hit him with the car.
Yes, I was gonna say I thought they hit him with the car, but I wasn't sure.
And then eventually they realize they have to bury him, and they have to put stones on him. But they take the stones from the one grave, which is where the head big vampire is, and they cover the one grave, and then the head vampire gets out. A real scary motherfucker.
Yeah.
Right. And there's a part where Eugene calls the police, and this to me was really funny. And he's like trying to report, and you can tell like there's a common theme with these Irish films where like nothing really happens in the small towns. And he says something like, what does he look like? He has dark skin because he's
dark skin, and all the people that are around him when
they all like
kind of go, oh my god.
They all put their hands in their hands, and The sheriff's like, or the police chief's like, Eugene, we are an inclusive community. And like, and it's funny because you would assume in Ireland there's a lot of white people. So,
Yeah.
you know, you would assume that if someone who wasn't white was walking around Ireland, they would probably be like, that's different. So obviously there is some racism there, but I get what they were trying to do with it. And he was dark, like he's a vampire. So he was completely dark running around. Like he looked like a shadow.
Yeah.
They don't really focus in on him. He does look like a shadow. So I thought like little stuff like that was funny. And there's a part where his dad and him, he goes to hug his dad and his dad's like, what are you doing? You're not 5 years old. I'm not hugging you. Like, it was just some funny shit that happens. I don't know what stood out for you, Scott, but it was like, it was that fight, that scene at the quarry for me, or at the job site.
Yeah, that the fight there, and actually it's the very beginning scene that kind of comes back into play later with the old couple and they're just married old couple sitting at the front of the TV, and all of a sudden the old woman just starts having a bloody nose. It just starts gushing blood, and she just like looks over at her husband going, what the hell is going on? And she looks over at her husband and his eyes are just pouring blood. And they're like, what the fuck? And you just see the pool of blood that hit the floor and just kind of like start moving away from them and going underneath the door. Like, that is a way to open a fucking movie. Like, right? That was like, holy shit, what the fuck is going on?
Now, you know, that guy was the drunk from Grabbers, right?
That makes sense.
Same actor.
Okay.
Yeah.
And another thing that stood out to me was because there were a few that got turned into vampires.
Yes.
Not a whole lot, just a couple.
Yeah.
And the way they were turned into vampires is very interesting. It was the stones having to be like cut into their skin is what transformed them, because the stones had some magic because of the vampire buried underneath as well.
Yeah.
And that's how his friend William ended up coming back, because he got smashed into the cairn by the bull, and the stones ended up like cutting him and like, kind of awakening him later when he was on the autopsy table. And then that's same with the one they got turned that they were trying to fight off and they couldn't kill. Like that same guy that had the bull ended up coming out because he wanted to keep people away from that area. So he came out and killed the guy, and then used the stone to scrape into his skin and wake him up to kind of like kill off anybody that tries to like mess with anything out in that field. Which I thought that was a nice little twist, and like a different, like it basically takes the whole vampire mythology that we all know and just completely turns it on its head.
It does. And it kind of makes you wonder what the real mythology is, doesn't it?
Yeah. Like, could that be the real mythology, or is this just something new and a new twist to the thing?
Well, I assume since it's Irish and the vampire mythology started in Ireland, is probably accurate.
That's kind of what I'm thinking.
Right. So this movie is, anyway, there's a climax. They fight the final vampire, the dad and the son, and there's some good comedy that goes back and forth between them. There's a part where their son, like George tries to shoot his son, but his son kills him. Like this movie is a really smooth runtime.
Yeah.
And there's some great one-liners similar to Grabbers. There's some great one-liners that are delivered in this film. It's so well put together. It's a really easy watch. And the ending is kind of a happy ending. Like one of the main chicks that's kind of assisted throughout the whole movie is going off to Australia and gonna #live her best life. And the main guy is kind of getting his shit together. And, you know, it's a really well done film. And I think with this film, I think a second watch was needed for me to really dig it. Like, I think I enjoyed it enough the first time, but I liked it a lot more the second time. Like watching it now, and I think watching more Irish Fourcore and having more of appreciation, like this is a great film on Shudder that if you haven't checked it out, please, or give it a second watch too, because it's totally worth it.
Oh, absolutely. Like, yeah, this was a very, very good film. And like I said, I looked at it differently the first time I watched it. And then the second time I'm going, no, it's way more serious than I gave it credit for. And like it's really got a great story to it.
Yeah.
And really you love all the characters. You like care for everybody.
Agreed. Yeah. So these were some, besides the third one, the rest of them were great. Some really great Fourcore. If you're into Fourcore, then Irish films are something you should be checking out. Like, I think you're at a real loss if you haven't had a chance to watch some of these films. So please watch them. You either got some good comedy that's in them or some very serious stuff that's in them. But either way, you're looking at some pretty entertaining movies. Now, it's interesting for Out of the Dark segment. We're kind of keeping on the vampire theme. And what I suggested to Scott we talk about is the inconsistencies of the vampire mythology. Scott already alluded to it in some comments he made earlier. And I said to him, well, which movie and which lore do we prefer? Do we each have a preference of like, because in every movie, it's like some can be in the sunlight, some can't be in the sunlight. Garlic affects some, doesn't affect others. Like, I find there's always so many different fucking shit that happens with vampires that I don't even know what the right thing is. So do we have a movie and do we have a lore that we prefer? So I'll let Scotty go first.
All right. So yeah, because I think the reason we have like so many different variations on this lore is because, same old vampire stories can get a bit, get stale because you do them so often. So movies have to get creative, kind of like in the zombie genre. Well, that type of stuff happens a lot. But for me, I think the one that kind of nails like certain aspects of the vampiric lore, and is my all-time favorite zombie movie, or not zombie, vampire movie, is Let the Right One In. Just because this takes the whole ancient vampire that has to basically have trying to think of the name of a thrall, which is a human that is promised vampirism at some point that will help the vampire do whatever it needs to survive, because obviously being a vampire, there are certain things you cannot do because you have to be around during the daylight to be able to do this stuff. And so they need a human thrall type character to be able to protect them and help them with things that they cannot do during the day and to keep people away.
Yeah.
And also for this character, her being a little girl vampire, she has him go out and do some of her killing for her, just so she's not caught and seen out in the world.
Yeah.
And he's going out and he's old and he's bumbling fool, and like when he goes to kill somebody, he screws up and spills all the blood and shit like that happens a lot to him. And it's because, and this is where I thought it was also fascinating, is she got him as a thrall and lured him in basically to help her when he was also the same age as Oscar, the boy that she's befriending now. So he was a little boy when this thrall came around. So like now he's an old man because he's been helping her for so long. And like, it's showing the sadness that comes along with this, where it's like, yep, she's a little girl when she met you when you were a little boy, and now 50 years or so go by, and here you are, an old man, and she's still the young girl. So she's watching you grow old and die, and having to continue doing this over and over and over again for the rest of her life. And it's sad, and like, but at the same time, I think she has been through it enough that she's just like, all right, time to find a new one.
Yeah, what's funny is the more I talk about this movie, because I've talked about that movie on a couple of podcasts now, the more I really don't like the girl. And I'd like the movie, but I think she's a little bitch because she purposely catches people that are young.
Yes.
And then ruins their life and makes them serve her till she has no purpose for them, and then she kills them.
Yep.
Which makes sense for being a vampire. That's what vampires do.
Yep, she's looking out for herself.
Like generous, kind individuals. I think because she's a child, it's masqueraded as such. But it's not. It's not.
Like a lot of the time, vampires are romanticized, and this is she is not. She is cruel. She is selfish. She's doing this for herself. Like obviously, she likes the companionship of them, like especially when they're at that age and stuff like that. Because being a vampire has got to be extremely lonely. And so like having the companionship, but also she sees them as a throwaway object.
Absolutely. And it's obviously not the first one she's had, and Oscar will not be the last one either. And I think you're right. I think that's a modern day telling of vampirism that is very, very interesting and kind of follows the idea of vampirism, to a T of you're sucking other people's life force, basically, and you're doing what you need to do to be alive forever. And there's, of course, always movies where the vampire is sometimes not a horrible person. Like we saw Night Teeth, where one of those vampires has somewhat of a conscience, right?
Yeah.
So you have your silly vampire movies where you have, maybe one vampire that isn't like completely bad and is still kind of a good person, so to say. But I do appreciate the lores where it's like, no, this vampire doesn't give a fuck and will fuck you up and will eat you and kill you.
Yeah.
I think that's really interesting.
And another thing I love about the lore of the vampire in this is that they actually get into details about the whole being invited into a home.
Yeah.
Where like Oscar's just like, what, you can't just walk into a house? She's like, no, I gotta be invited. He's like, well, what if I don't invite you? Like, but you still come in. And she just walks in, and when she does, like as soon as she steps over that threshold, you see just like her sweating blood and blood just pooling up around her, and like it's actually like slowly killing her. And he's like, oh no, you're invited, you're invited. But I love that it actually shows like, in most movies, like vampires, like if they're not invited in, they just can't come in.
Yeah.
And in this one, no, she's like, no, I can still walk in, but I am going to die.
It's going to eat me from the inside out, right?
Yeah, and I love that. I thought that was a very interesting take on the whole being invited.
And that's similar in Fright Night. He can't come in unless he's invited as well, too.
Yeah.
30 Days of Night. I don't think that, like, I like 30 Days of Night a lot. I know a lot of people shit on that movie. I think it's really great. I think the vampires in there are fucking terrifying. I actually really enjoy that vampire film quite a bit because they don't give a fuck. They're just kill machines, and they go up there because they know there's 30 days of night and they can feed without any disruptions.
Yep. And once again, it's vampires that are not romanticized at all. They're like portrayed as straight up monsters.
Right. And then even like Blade, he's a half-bred vampire. Like he's human, half vampire.
Yeah,
Daywalker, right? Which they have the Daywalker kind of thoughts in it. Which I guess, and I know this isn't a strong vampire film, but I feel like Twilight was kind of trying to do that. Is that it was a daywalk, like he was a daywalker, those vampires, like.
Yeah, but just that they were basically, if they walked into the daylight, they were announcing themselves as vampires because they'd start sparkling or whatever.
Yeah, right. And we can all make fun of it. Like it was written for fucking teenage girls, everyone. Like, let's just be realistic here. And if you watch the movies, they're painful, but like they're for teenage girls. So, I thought that was always interesting. People get so upset about Twilight. Like it's a fucking...
Yeah, it's just because it was so popular and it was made for teenage girls. And like, if you're a real horror fan, dude, these are terrible movies, blah, blah, blah. It's like, no, it's just not for you. It was not made for you.
No, like, it's not like anyone's going to be like, oh man, I love Nosferatu and fucking Twilight as my vampire films. Like, obviously, they're made for a specific genre. Like, even movies that came out like Night Teeth or the other one that we saw last year that was on Netflix, the Vampire Hunter movies with the kids.
Oh, yeah.
I can't remember what that one was called, but
it was
Scott may try to look it up maybe while
I'm gonna look it up
but like those movies are fluffy fucking, like, even you can argue the Lost Boys, people fucking praise the ground the Lost Boys walk on, but they were all, it's because you love the 80s. Like, don't get me wrong, I enjoy the Lost Boys too. I think it's a really fun movie with Kiefer Sutherland, but there's lots of cheese vampire shit in there that's nothing like Nosferatu or like 30 Days of Night or like Let the Right One In or Let Me In or whatever. Like they're there, or A Girl Walks Home Alone at Night. Like there's other vampire films that take themselves way more seriously than the fucking Lost Boys do. Or Fright Night for that matter as well. Fright Night is another one that's fun. Like you got sexy, oh my God, I can't remember his name now. My boyfriend.
Chris
Sarandon doing his sexy time dances and being all seductive. And then you got the remake with Colin Farrell where he makes that comment about his mom smelling good and his girls smelling ripe and like all this other shit. Like, like those are supposed to be sexy and silly. I don't know. I feel like you got categories and people shit on Twilight. Just don't fucking watch the films, man. And let those teenage girls enjoy their fucking Edward fucking the vampire film.
Well, and when you brought up Lost Boys is just the 80s version of Twilight.
I know people like, no, it's not. Okay, no, I've watched it recently and I was a first time watch for me in the last couple of years. I had a good time with it, but it's beautiful vampires driving around on motorcycles and they're seductive and they have an orgy and you come and you get turned. It's a fun movie. It's fucking awesome. It's lots of fun, but it's no fucking Nosferatu or it's no fucking Let the Right One In. Like, no,
and it was made for, teenage girls for the most part, but also, that one was just a little darker than Twilight, but it was still the same thing.
But it had the hot music and the hot look that guys
want to look. I mean, we had a sexy saxophone player for no reason that was shirtless and muscular.
Like, that's what that was about.
But I did look up the other movie that you're talking about on Netflix, and that was Vampires versus the Bronx.
That's what it was. Yet again, a fluffy, fun vampire film.
Yep. And then when I was looking that one up, this one got brought up on like when I was kind of scrolling through. But another interesting take on vampirism, Blood Red Sky from Netflix, where it showed vampirism kind of like as the woman as a kind of a cancer patient.
Yeah.
She looked, monstrous, like when she took her wig off, because like her head was elongated and bald, but like, you know, she just looked like frail and fragile until she turned into the beast.
Yep, absolutely. Bliss. Remember Bliss?
Yeah.
That's a take on vampirism too. Like there's so many films that are a take on vampirism, and I feel like you get a handful of films that are really raw, that are really like, and I think The Boys from County Hell, that version of vampirism is actually very raw. Even though it's a comedy, the vampire is non-feeling, non-thinking kill machine.
Yeah.
There's no funny dialogue. There's no sexy. And I know we're not bringing up Bram Stoker's Dracula because I think that movie is very sexualized. He's supposed to be sexy. There's a whole love story and stuff in there. And that's yet again, fine. There's nothing wrong with liking that kind of vampire film. But
I love that movie.
Right? Like, but there's lots of different types of films. And like, I love A Girl Walks Home Alone at Night as a vampire film. I think that film reflects true vampirism because even though you kind of get her as a character, you really don't. She doesn't say a lot. She's just kind of creepy in there. So yeah, I think. Sorry, go ahead, Scott.
I'll say then another version that I was thinking of is Abel Ferreira's Addiction, and it basically treats like this vampirism as like you are a drug addict for this blood now, and you have like, and it's like showing a woman that has become a vampire that's like fiending for blood and treats it like it's like addiction to a very powerful addictive drug like crack and crystal meth and all that shit, and what she will do for it. And it's like a hard look at that, and it's like there's so many different takes on vampirism now, and it's like I love that we have these different varieties and nothing just seems the same. And I love people taking a step out of the box, so to speak.
I will personally always lean towards maybe the darker versions of vampirism, right? Myself. I don't necessarily like my vampires being a quasi protagonist or overly dashing and smart and sexy. I personally, doesn't mean I don't like those films, and I think they have their place. I prefer the darker, grittier version of it. I like when sunlight is the thing that kills them. I like the whole stake through the heart kind of thing. The garlic thing, I don't really care about that, and that's consistency. But I do like the sunlight concept, and I do like the stake through the heart concept. But that doesn't mean I can't, like, no, I don't enjoy the Twilight films at all. Like, I find them poorly written and poorly acted, yet again, not made for me. But I can sit and watch like Fright Night, both the original and the remake, and enjoy it for what it is. I can watch The Lost Boys. And the fun ones that we've talked about, there was an all-female one that was LGBTQ friendly that came out 2 years ago that was vampirism. What was it called? Bit?
Yep.
That was great. Like, you know, like those are fun and fluffy, and they can be a good time too. But I do definitely like my vampires darker.
Yeah. And actually one I'm so shocked we didn't bring up earlier, but What We Do in the Shadows does a great representation of like covering all the different mythologies of vampires that have been brought into film. Like it's a fantastic way. It's like a fantastic way to introduce someone that's not into vampire lore to what vampire lore is really like. Like, here's the old Nosferatu type character and what he can deal with. Here's a freshly made new one that's starting to learn, like, oh, I can't eat food, or I will vomit up blood. Like, I can't eat regular food. And like, and it's just showing like the different variations of the vampire mythology, and I love that.
I agree with you. I think they all have their place, right? And I think that's the one thing that's good about the vampire mythology. And we'll talk about other mythologies as well as we go through, but I think there's so much flexibility with it. You know, whether it's doing something like Bliss, or it's doing something like From Dusk Till Dawn, or 30 Days of Night, you can kind of make it whatever you want it to be, and you can play with the mythology to make it the kind of film that you want it to be made. Exactly. And I think it stands the test of time. That's why we've had vampire movies going back from when you could first make film to now. And I think to say this one is the best is, I personally don't think a fair statement. I think you can say, I like this mythology the best, and I like this storytelling of it the best. But I think there's a lot of really solid, good vampire films, and to pick one above all of them, I don't know if that's a fair statement to make. I really don't.
Right? No, like I can see you saying this is my personal favorite.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, but like, it's kind of tough to say what would be the best vampire film, just because there's so many variations out there that have done something completely different.
We got over 100 years of vampire films.
Yeah,
like, we have a lot of films. Like, if we tried to watch all the different vampire films, and that's just if we look at fucking North American films.
Yeah.
Never mind if we started to expand into different countries and different languages and all the different vampirism films that come from there. Like, I just think when people say this is the best film, unless you've watched all those films and done some kind of deep analysis on them, I don't know if you can really say this is the all-time best film. You could say it's my all-time favorite and it's the one I like the most. But with the mythology being what it is and being so complex, I think it's important though to explore all of the different fields and figure out which one works for you and which one you enjoy the most.
Yeah, completely agree.
Right. So that's sorry, go ahead, Scott.
I'll say I like this topic that we're gonna be kind of rolling with for a while for Out of the Dark. It's gonna be fun to kind of like talk about the other types of mythological creatures out there.
Well, and how the mythology is seen, and as we started talking for this vampire stuff, I thought, shit, man, it is really different.
Yeah.
Like there's so many different versions of vampirism that I didn't even really think about it till now. And when we started talking about it, and I realized, I'm like, shit, like, I do have, my comical vampires. Like I love Dracula Dead and loving it. I think that movie's really fucking funny, amazing, right? Like, but it's not a serious vampire film. I enjoyed The Lost Boys. I enjoyed Fright Night, both the original and the remake. I actually really like the remake. I think it's great. I love 30 Days of Night. I enjoyed Blade when it came out. I watched all the fucking Blades. I thought they were entertaining.
Fuck yeah.
Right? Like I don't know. Interview with a Vampire. Like there's so many.
Interview with a Vampire is
right?
one that, I love that movie.
Anne Rice, right? Like there's just so many cool films that are out there and different looks on it, and I really loved Bliss. I thought Bliss was fucking exceptional, right? So look at what's out there, watch different kinds of mythology, and decide what works for you.
Yeah,
is really the message of today's Out of the Dark Side,
because we are all about messages.
We are all about being deep like vampires.
We're all about going deep.
Yeah, we are. High five, high five, high five. And I think so. Our next films, I don't know, maybe we should just do the full UK. Maybe we should do some Scottish horror films, and then maybe we should do some England horror films.
Yes, I like that idea.
And I think that will lead me up to my trips. Even though I'm not going to Scotland, I'm just going to Ireland and England. But that might be fun. I think it'd be fun.
I'll say we'll have to
we'll
have to kind of look through see what type of Scottish films there are.
There's got to be. I bet you there's tons on Loch Ness Monster Nessie.
Oh, I bet. I'm kind of doing a quick Google search.
That's a huge fucking moneymaker.
Wicker Man.
Yep.
A lot of movies I never heard of. Lord of Tears, White Settlers, Calibre, Mike Matriarch. Let Us Pray, I've heard of. Yeah, so there's definitely a nice variety. Oh, yep, there it is. Incident at Loch Ness.
See, there's got to be something about Nessie on there. But yeah, we'll definitely Wicker Man. Oh man, I enjoy Wicker Man.
Fuck yeah, that movie's amazing.
Watched that one. Yeah, we should definitely watch Wicker Man. So yeah, those are just some of the films some of the things we'll be looking at doing before my trip. Thanks for Scott for like doing this random theme with me. Happy post St. Patty's Day, everybody. Hope you had a great time.
Happy St. Patty's Day, and hope you all drank yourselves silly, but also were safe and had a great time with it.
Well, and don't forget that some of us are still going to keep partying on to Saturday. So when you guys are hearing this, I still have every intention of going out and drinking like crazy. In
other words, Heather says she's not done drinking until Monday.
No, St. Patrick's Day. Well, and I'm not usually a big St. Patrick's person. I just want to party because it's been 2 years of fucking COVID. And today is March 13th, 2022. So let's all give ourselves a pat on the back for making it to this point, because 2 years ago today, our lives changed. Yes. And they changed in a way that we never thought would be possible. So I would like to actually just take a second to thank Scotty for being there for me throughout this entire thing. And thank you
for being there for me as well. Like, this has been an insane 2 years because of everything that has happened. And because I started getting the memories on Facebook of like the toilet paper shortage and all that shit that was going on. And then I'm like, oh yeah, that was around. Like, 2 years we have survived that. Like, a lot of us have survived this. Unfortunately, there are a lot that have not survived this, but at the same time, like, you're still here today, pat yourself on the back and just be thankful that, things are definitely different. Things are still not in a good spot, but we are getting there.
I never thought I'd be so grateful for little things like being able to travel and being able to go out to a restaurant, and really like a lot of privileged stuff I know I'm saying here. But man, these 2 years have really taught me about the strength of online relationships, online communities. Mm-hmm. I'm really excited that I'm going to be able to meet most of the people that I haven't had a chance to in person this year. I'm really, really excited for that.
because these online communities were things that got me through some really, really rough times. And,
yeah, same.
Right. And Scott and I have been doing Friday Nightmares for just over 2 years virtually.
Wow.
So we made that switch. We literally only did 2 episodes in person and switched to doing virtual. And I don't think we would ever go back to in person. There'd be no reason to.
No.
We have to get all those mics set up. Oh my God, that'd be a fucking headache. We would never do that. Maybe our final episode, if I'll come out to Michigan, if not that we're there yet, but maybe that's what we would do is we end off together kind of
a proper send-off type thing.
Yeah, right. Like maybe that's what we'll do, but that's not anywhere in the horizon yet. So
right.
But yeah, it's incredible. So cheers to you. This is, this will be released on March 18th. So cheers to you for getting to this point. And hope that you're doing well wherever you are in the world, because we've all been affected by this. So and thanks for sticking with us and going through this pandemic, because majority of our show has been during the pandemics.
Right. And I mean, it's what caused us to start going bi-weekly instead of monthly, just to keep our sanity and just release something for people to listen to. So
right. And here we are 54 episodes later.
It's crazy.
It is crazy. So thank you again for the ride. As always, you can find us on the Legion Podcast Network. Please hit that subscribe button on Spotify or any of the I guess you could say streaming services that you subscribe to. Please check out Legion Patreon if you're not already a member, because if you're not a member,
what are you waiting for? What are you waiting for?
You can join for $3 a month and you get access to lots of extra content. Unfortunately, Scott and I have not released extra content onto Legion Patreon. Patreon.
I was silently cheering you. You got this.
Just because Scott's busy.
Now
I'm going to be busy, but it's really Scott, to be honest with you. Like, I'm glad that I can even get him to bi-weekly record this show. I haven't felt like pushing my luck and trying to get him to do a third one either. Because then he also has to watch the movies, and then he doesn't have a lot of time because he's doing I keep saying work, but him and I both know it's not work that's taking
these last 2 weeks has been a lot of work stuff.
Yes, but
it's just been life in general.
Yes, it's been socializing.
Yes,
has been the biggest factor.
Dating life.
Well, I was saying socializing because I didn't want to say dating, but it's dating. Yes. That's taking a majority of his time. It's not his magic tournaments, believe it or not.
No,
he hasn't fully gone pro yet. He hasn't gone the full pro.
No, it's because I'm already a pro.
Well, when you're this famous, honestly, like you're a big deal. So eventually we'll get back to doing, our top 5s again. I'm sure that will be a goal that we'll do. We did do a bunch in December. We should have just saved those and fucking released them, but we didn't think that far ahead. So here we are.
We made it easy for ourselves during the holiday season by doing those.
We did make it easy for ourselves. This is true. So next time we will be doing either Scottish or horror from England. English from England. Matt from the eternal
darkness of the not so spotless mind.
Honestly, guys, can you get a fucking shorter name? When we're meeting up in London, we're changing the name of your podcast to something that I can say without Scott doing it for me, which means it will have to be one word or two.
The Eternal Podcast.
The Eternal Podcast with Matt and Kate. But Matt made fun of me. It was like English films from England. Heather, funny. It's true. I'm just a really superior podcaster. What can I say? I really know what I'm talking about.
You're a big deal.
I'm a big deal, clearly. Anyway, thank you for listening. And until next time.
Until next time, kiddies. Unpleasant dreams.
See ya.